Lucas Hayes stood in the barn doorway at 3 a.m., staring at the foreclosure notice crumpled in his fist. Behind him, his 6-year-old daughter whimpered in her sleep, and his infant son cried for a bottle he couldn't afford to fill. The farm was dying. He was dying. And then headlights cut through the darkness, a black SUV rolling up his dirt driveway like it owned the place. The door opened, and out stepped a woman in a designer coat that cost more than his annual income. She looked at him with eyes that had seen too much and said 5 words that would wreck his life. "I need a place to stay. If you're watching from your city tonight, drop a comment below and hit that like button. I want to see how far this story travels." Now let's begin. The woman didn't wait for an answer. She pulled a leather bag from the back seat and walked past Lucas like she'd been invited, her heels clicking against the uneven porch boards. He stood there, still holding the foreclosure notice, his brain struggling to catch up with what was happening. "Wait, hold on," he finally managed, his voice rough from exhaustion. "Who are you?" She stopped at the front door and turned. Under the porch light, he could see her more clearly now. Late 20s, maybe 30, dark hair pulled back tight, sharp features that belonged on magazine covers, not on failing farms in the middle of nowhere. Her eyes swept over him, his worn flannel, his muddy boots, the exhaustion carved into every line of his face, and something flickered there. Recognition, maybe, or pity. "Amelia," she said. Not Amelia, nice to meet you, or Amelia, sorry for barging in. Just Amelia, like that explained everything. "That's great," Lucas said, fighting to keep his voice level. "But you can't just walk into someone's house at 3 in the morning. I'm not walking in. I'm standing outside your locked door." She tilted her head slightly. "Are you going to let me in, or should I sleep in my car?" Behind him, Mason's crying escalated to full-blown wailing. Lucas closed his eyes, felt the headache that had been building all day finally crack his skull open. The foreclosure, the medical bills, the empty fridge, the kids who needed him to be someone he didn't know how to be anymore. "Please," Amelia added, and that single word changed everything. It wasn't imperious or demanding. It was quiet, almost desperate. Lucas looked at her again. Really looked. Beneath the expensive clothes and perfect posture, she looked as wrecked as he felt. "One night," he said, "and you explain everything in the morning." She nodded once, crisp and businesslike. "Deal." Inside, Mason was screaming loud enough to wake his sister. Lucas brushed past Amelia and headed for the stairs, taking them 2 at a time. The nursery, which was really just a converted closet, was stuffy and dim. Mason's face was red and scrunched, tiny fists waving furiously. "I know, buddy," Lucas murmured, scooping him up. "I know. I'm sorry." He headed downstairs to heat a bottle, Mason howling against his shoulder. When he reached the kitchen, Amelia was already there, standing in the middle of the room like she was cataloging every crack in the linoleum, every dish in the sink, every sign that this house was barely holding itself together. "You can take the guest room," Lucas said over Mason's crying. "Upstairs, second door on the left. Sheets might be dusty." "Where do you keep the formula?" Amelia asked. Lucas stopped. "What?" "The baby formula. He's hungry." "I know he's hungry. I'm heating a bottle right now." "The water should be warm, not hot, and you should test it on your wrist first." Lucas stared at her. "I know how to feed my own son." "I'm sure you do." She crossed her arms. "But you're doing it one-handed while barely standing upright. Let me help." "I don't need—" "Please," she said again, and there it was again. That same stripped-down desperation. "Let me help." He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her to get the hell out of his house and his life. But Mason was screaming and his head was splitting, and he was so tired he could barely remember the last time he'd slept more than 3 hours straight. "Fine," he muttered, handing Mason over. She took the baby with surprising confidence, adjusting her grip automatically, supporting his head properly. Mason's screaming didn't stop, but it downshifted to angry fussing. Lucas turned to the stove, poured water into a pot, set it to heat. His hands were shaking. "How old is he?" Amelia asked behind him. 4 months. "And the girl? Emma? She's 6. Lucas found the formula canister, measured out a scoop. "Look, I appreciate the help or whatever this is, but you need to tell me what you're doing here." "Running," Amelia said simply. Lucas turned. She was swaying slightly, bouncing Mason in that instinctive rhythm that usually took parents weeks to learn. The baby had quieted, watching her face with confused interest. From what? People who want to control me, use me, turn me into something I never asked to be. She looked up, met his eyes. I saw your town on a map. Middle of nowhere, no five-star hotels, no corporate offices, no one who would think to look here. I need somewhere to disappear for a while. This isn't a hotel. No, she agreed, but I'll pay rent, whatever you think is fair. Lucas laughed, a bitter, exhausted sound. Lady, I don't think you understand. This place is falling apart. I can barely keep the lights on. The farm's dying. I'm barely keeping my kids fed. You want to pay rent? There are actual hotels 30 miles south that won't have mice in the walls. I don't want a hotel. The water started to simmer. Lucas poured it into a bottle, added the formula, screwed the cap on tight. When he turned back, Amelia was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Why here? He asked quietly. Really? She was quiet for a long moment. Mason had fallen asleep against her shoulder, his angry red face finally peaceful. Because no one would believe I'd choose this, she said finally, and maybe I need to be somewhere where no one believes anything about me at all. Lucas tested the formula on his wrist, warm, not hot, and held out his hands for Mason. Amelia transferred him carefully, and Lucas settled into the kitchen chair to feed him. The baby latched onto the bottle immediately, sucking hard. 1 week, Lucas said. You can stay 1 week. After that, you're gone. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen this place in daylight. Amelia almost smiled. I've seen worse. Doubt it. You'd be surprised what money can hide. They stood there in the dim kitchen, the only sound Mason's rhythmic sucking and the old house creaking around them. Lucas felt like he was making a mistake, letting a stranger into his home, into his children's lives. But he was too tired to care, and the way she'd said please, twice, had cracked something open in his chest that he'd thought was permanently sealed. Guest room, he repeated. Upstairs, second door. Amelia nodded and headed for the stairs. At the doorway, she paused. Lucas? He looked up. Yeah? I meant what I said about paying rent. I'm not here to take advantage. We'll talk about it in the morning. She disappeared upstairs. Lucas sat in the kitchen, feeding his son, staring at the foreclosure notice still lying on the counter. Outside, the first gray light of dawn was starting to creep across the horizon. He had no idea what he'd just agreed to. Morning came hard and bright. Lucas woke to Emma shaking his shoulder, her small face worried. Daddy, there's a lady in our house. He blinked, disoriented. He'd fallen asleep in the chair in Mason's room, the baby sprawled across his chest. Sunlight was streaming through the window, real sunlight, which meant he'd overslept by at least 2 hours. The morning feeding, the chickens, the fence repair he'd been putting off for 3 weeks. I know, sweetheart, he said, carefully transferring Mason to his crib. The baby stirred but didn't wake. She's staying with us for a little while. Why? Because she needs a place to stay. Emma frowned. She had her mother's eyes, dark and questioning, and sometimes Lucas couldn't look at her without feeling like he was drowning. Is she nice? I don't know yet. They went downstairs together. Lucas could smell coffee, real coffee, not the instant crap he'd been stretching for the past month. And something else. Bacon? In the kitchen, Amelia stood at the stove, still wearing yesterday's expensive clothes, cooking breakfast like she belonged there. She'd found the eggs, the bacon he'd been saving, the bread that was 2 days from going stale. Emma stopped dead in the doorway, staring. Good morning, Amelia said without turning around. I hope you don't mind. I was hungry. You didn't have to. I did, actually. When was the last time you had a real breakfast? Lucas opened his mouth, closed it, couldn't remember. Amelia glanced over her shoulder. You must be Emma. Emma pressed closer to Lucas's leg, suddenly shy. Uh-huh. I'm Amelia. Your dad's letting me stay here for a few days. She flipped the bacon expertly. Do you like scrambled eggs? Sometimes. Good. These will be ready in 5 minutes. Why don't you two sit down? They sat. Lucas felt like he was moving through a dream, or maybe a hallucination brought on by severe sleep deprivation. This woman, this stranger, was cooking breakfast in his kitchen like it was the most natural thing in the world, and not just throwing something together. Real food, enough for all of them. "Where did you find all this?" he asked. "Your fridge. You had more than you think." She started plating eggs. "Though we should go shopping today. You're out of milk, and the bread situation is critical." "I can't afford—" "I can." She set a plate in front of Emma, then Lucas. "I told you I'd pay rent. Consider this part of it." Lucas stared at the eggs. Golden, fluffy, perfect. When was the last time someone had cooked for him? When was the last time he'd eaten something that wasn't frozen or out of a box? Emma dug in immediately, shoveling eggs into her mouth. Amelia sat down across from them with her own plate, eating with the same efficient precision she seemed to apply to everything. "So," Lucas said carefully, "about last night. What about it? You said you were running from people who want to control you." He kept his voice low, conscious of Emma listening. "What people?" Amelia took a sip of coffee. "Business partners, family, people who think they own me because of my last name." "What's your last name? Does it matter? If you're staying in my house, yeah, it matters." She looked at him for a long moment. "Sterling. Amelia Sterling." The name meant nothing to Lucas, but the way she said it, like a confession, made him think it should. "Okay," he said. "Amelia Sterling. Why should I believe you're not some kind of criminal?" "Would a criminal make you breakfast?" "That's not an answer." "No," she agreed. "But it's the only one I have right now." Emma looked up from her eggs. "Are you a princess?" Amelia blinked. "What?" "You look like a princess from the movies." "I'm not a princess, sweetheart. Just someone who's very tired and needed somewhere quiet to sleep." "Daddy's tired too," Emma said matter-of-factly. "He's always tired." Lucas felt his chest tighten. "Emma, it's true. You fall asleep in chairs and forget to eat dinner, and last week you cried in the barn when you thought I couldn't see." The kitchen went silent. Amelia was looking at him now, really looking, and Lucas wanted to disappear through the floor. "Emma, that's enough," he said quietly. "I'm just saying, enough." His daughter's face crumpled. She pushed back from the table and ran upstairs, her footsteps heavy on the old wood. A door slammed. Lucas closed his eyes. "I should—" "Give her a minute," Amelia said. "She's worried about you. She's 6. She shouldn't have to worry about me. But she does. Because she loves you, and she can see you're struggling." Amelia started clearing plates. "For what it's worth, you're doing better than you think. You don't know anything about me. I know you're raising 2 kids alone on a failing farm while barely keeping yourself alive. I know you answered the door at 3 a.m. for a stranger instead of calling the police. I know you're proud and stubborn and probably haven't asked for help once in your life." She turned to face him. "How am I doing so far?" Lucas just stared at her. "I'm not here to judge you, Lucas. I'm here because I need somewhere to hide, and you need help whether you'll admit it or not. So let's make this simple. I stay, I contribute, and we both pretend we're not drowning." "I'm not—" "Yes, you are. I recognize it because I am too." She crossed her arms. 1 week, that's what you said. Give me 1 week to prove I'm not making things worse. If I am, I'll leave. No argument. He wanted to say no. Wanted to throw her out right now. Consequences be damned. But the eggs had been good, and the coffee was better, and Emma was upstairs crying because she'd told the truth, and Lucas was so tired of doing everything alone. 1 week, he said finally, but there are rules. I'm listening. You don't go through our stuff. You don't make promises to my kids you can't keep. And if I tell you to leave, you leave. No questions. Agreed. And I want to know what you're really running from. Amelia hesitated. I will, but not yet. I need to trust you first. That's not how trust works. No, she said, but it's the best I can do. Upstairs, Mason started crying. Lucas stood automatically, his body moving before his brain caught up. I'll get him, Amelia said. You should check on Emma. You don't... Lucas, let me help. She disappeared upstairs before he could argue. Lucas stood in the kitchen, alone with dirty dishes and the lingering smell of bacon, wondering what the hell he'd gotten himself into. Emma's room was at the end of the hall, the door covered in crayon drawings and construction paper stars. Lucas knocked gently. Go away. Emma, come on. You yelled at me. I didn't yell. He stopped, took a breath. Can I come in? Silence. Then, I guess. She was lying on her bed, face pressed into a pillow shaped like a unicorn. The room was small, but neat. Emma had always been particular about her things, even as a toddler. Photos covered one wall, mostly pictures she'd drawn herself. A few showed their family before, when there had been 3 adults instead of 1. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed. I'm sorry. You always say that. I know. I wasn't trying to be mean, I just wanted her to know you're sad. Lucas felt something crack in his chest. I know, sweetheart, and you're right. I am sad sometimes. But that's not your job to fix. Then whose job is it? He didn't have an answer for that. Downstairs, he could hear Amelia moving around, talking softly to Mason. The baby's crying had stopped. Is she staying? Emma asked, still not looking at him. For a week. Maybe. I like her. You just met her. So? I still like her. She made real eggs. And she didn't get mad when I asked if she was a princess. Emma finally rolled over, looking up at him with those dark, serious eyes. And she thinks you're doing good. I heard her say it. You were eavesdropping. You were talking loud. She sat up, wrapping her arms around her knees. Daddy, can I ask you something? Always. Are we going to lose the house? Lucas felt the air leave his lungs. What? I heard you on the phone last week. You said we might have to move. Emma, are we? He looked at his daughter, 6 years old and already carrying weight she shouldn't have to carry, just like her father. I don't know, he said honestly. Maybe, but I'm doing everything I can to make sure we don't. Is that why you're letting her stay? Because she has money? No, I'm letting her stay because she asked for help and we have a spare room. He pulled Emma into a hug, felt her small body relax against him. But yeah, sweetheart, the money will help too. I hope she stays longer than a week. We'll see. They went downstairs together. Amelia was in the living room, Mason propped on her lap, singing something soft and nonsensical while the baby grabbed at her hair. She'd changed clothes, jeans and a plain sweater that looked expensive but not showy, more human somehow. He likes you, Emma observed. Most babies do. I don't talk down to them. What does that mean? It means I treat them like people, not pets. Amelia shifted Mason to her other arm. Your dad said you have school today. Emma's face fell. Oh, yeah. You don't like school? It's okay, just boring. What are you studying? Reading and math and science, but the science is just coloring pictures of butterflies. Amelia raised an eyebrow. That doesn't sound like science. That's what I said, Emma perked up. Real science is experiments and testing and figuring out how things work. But Mrs. Patterson says we're too young for that. Mrs. Patterson sounds like she's underestimating you. She underestimates everybody. Lucas cleared his throat. Emma, go get ready. Bus comes in 20 minutes. His daughter trudged upstairs, dragging her feet dramatically. When she was gone, Lucas turned to Amelia. You didn't have to change her diaper. I didn't. I let him go commando while we sang songs. He seemed fine with it. Wait, really? No, I changed him. There are clean diapers in the nursery and I'm not an idiot. She stood, transferred Mason to Lucas. But thank you for assuming I'd let your son sit in his own filth. I wasn't. You were. She headed for the kitchen. I'm going to start a grocery list. Anything specific you need? Amelia, you don't have to. I know I don't have to. I want to. There's a difference. She paused in the doorway. Unless you'd prefer I sit in the guest room and stay out of your way. Lucas looked down at Mason, who was chewing contentedly on his own fist. The baby looked happy, fed, clean. When was the last time Lucas had managed all 3 before noon? Milk, he said quietly. We need milk and diapers, and probably everything else. Amelia nodded and disappeared into the kitchen. Lucas stood in the living room, holding his son, listening to the sounds of someone else moving through his house like they belonged there. It felt wrong. It also felt like the first deep breath he'd taken in months. The day passed in a blur. Emma caught the bus. Lucas took Mason outside for the morning rounds, feeding chickens, checking fences, trying to pretend the farm wasn't circling the drain. Amelia disappeared into town with a list and his truck, which she'd asked to borrow with the kind of casual confidence that made him think she'd never been told no in her life. She came back 3 hours later with enough groceries to fill the pantry twice over. "How much did you spend?" Lucas demanded, staring at the bags covering every surface in the kitchen. "Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters. I bought food, necessary food. You're welcome." "I don't need charity." "This isn't charity, Lucas. This is rent and self-preservation. I'm staying here too, remember? I'd like to eat more than stale bread and wishful thinking." She started unpacking, moving through his kitchen like she'd lived there for years instead of hours. Lucas wanted to argue, but Mason was fussing, and the chicken still needed water, and the leak in the barn roof wasn't going to fix itself. "We need to talk about boundaries," he said instead. "Fine. You want to set boundaries, set them. You can't just come in here and take over. I'm not taking over. I'm helping. There's a difference." "Is there?" Amelia stopped unpacking, looked at him. "Yes. Taking over means I don't give you a choice. Helping means I do. So here's your choice. Let me do this or tell me to stop and I will. But decide, because I'm tired of dancing around your pride." Mason's fussing escalated to crying. Lucas bounced him automatically, his mind spinning. "Why do you even care?" he asked quietly. "About what? About any of this? You're some rich woman running from her problems. Why not just go to a hotel? Why not disappear to Europe or some island no one's heard of? Why here?" Amelia was quiet for a long moment, a can of soup frozen in her hand. "Because hotels are empty," she said finally, "and islands are lonely, and Europe is full of people who know my name." She set the can down carefully. "I came here because I needed to remember what real life looks like, what it feels like to be around people who don't want something from me." "You think I don't want something?" "I know you don't. You're barely tolerating my presence. Trust me, it's refreshing." She went back to unpacking. Lucas watched her for another moment, then gave up and went outside to finish the chores. Mason came with him, strapped to his chest in a carrier that smelled like sour milk and defeat. The afternoon sun was brutal. Lucas worked through it, patching the fence with wire that wouldn't last another month, hauling water to troughs that leaked faster than he could fill them. Mason dozed against his chest, dead weight and warm baby breath. By the time Emma's bus rumbled up the driveway, Lucas was covered in sweat and dirt and the bone-deep exhaustion that had become his permanent state. Emma jumped off the bus and ran to him, backpack bouncing. "Daddy, we learned about photosynthesis today. Mrs. Patterson actually let us do something instead of just coloring." "That's great, sweetheart. And guess what? Amelia's still here." Lucas looked up. Amelia was on the porch, leaning against the railing, watching them. She'd rolled up her sleeves at some point, and her expensive jeans had dirt on the knees. "What did you do?" he called. "Fixed your porch step. It was about to collapse." "You what?" "YouTube," she said simply. "And your toolbox, which is organized terribly, by the way." Emma was already running toward her, chattering about school. Amelia listened with the same focused attention she seemed to give everything, asking real questions, actually interested. Lucas followed slowly, Mason heavy and warm against his chest. "You didn't have to do that," he said when he reached the porch. "I know, but I was bored, and it needed doing." She straightened. "Also, your roof is about to cave in. The barn, specifically. You've got water damage and rot in at least 3 beams." "I know. When were you planning to fix it? When I had money, or time, or both? What if I—" "No." Amelia stopped. "I haven't even said what I was going to offer." "You were going to offer to pay for it. The answer is no." "Lucas." "I said no." He brushed past her, heading inside. Emma followed, still talking about photosynthesis. Amelia stayed on the porch. Dinner was tense. Amelia had made chicken and rice, real food, actual vegetables, and Emma ate like she'd never seen a home-cooked meal before. Which, Lucas realized with a sinking gut, she probably hadn't. Not in months. He'd been feeding her frozen pizzas and canned soup, telling himself it was good enough. "This is really good," Emma said through a mouthful of chicken. "Emma, don't talk with your mouth full." "But it is." "Manners, sweetheart." Amelia was quiet, pushing food around her plate. Lucas watched her from the corner of his eye. She'd pulled her hair back again, tight and severe, and there were shadows under her eyes that hadn't been there this morning. "Are you okay?" he asked before he could stop himself. She looked up, surprised. "Fine." "You look tired." "So do you." "I have an excuse." "You don't." "Don't I?" She set her fork down. "I'm not used to manual labor or being useful. It's exhausting." Emma giggled. Amelia smiled, a real smile, small but genuine. After dinner, Emma begged to show Amelia her room. They disappeared upstairs together, leaving Lucas alone with Mason and a mountain of dishes. He could hear them above him, Emma's voice high and excited, Amelia's lower and calmer. The baby was asleep in his carrier, tiny snores whistling through his nose. Lucas washed dishes and tried to think. 1 week. That's what he'd agreed to. 1 week of this strange, unsettling peace. And then she'd be gone, and everything would go back to falling apart. He was drying the last plate when Amelia came back downstairs. "She wants you to tuck her in," she said. "Okay." "Lucas?" She hesitated. "Thank you." "For what?" "For letting me stay. I know it's not easy." "You're paying rent." "That's not what I mean." She looked away. "I haven't felt this normal in years, so thank you." She left before he could respond, heading upstairs to the guest room. Lucas stood in the kitchen, dish towel in hand, trying to figure out what the hell normal meant to someone like her. Upstairs, Emma was already in her pajamas, tucked under her unicorn blanket. "I like her," she announced as Lucas sat on the edge of the bed. "You mentioned that. She said I was smart, and she wants to teach me real science. She knows about chemical reactions and stuff." "That's nice, sweetheart." "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "Can she stay longer than a week?" Lucas smoothed hair back from Emma's forehead. "We'll see." "That means no." "That means maybe." Emma frowned but didn't argue. Lucas kissed her forehead, turned off the light, and headed to his own room. He fell asleep within seconds, too tired to dream, too exhausted to worry. He woke to Mason crying at 2 a.m., stumbled through the feeding, collapsed back into bed. Woke again at 4 for another feeding. Got up for real at 6, groggy and disoriented. When he went downstairs, Amelia was already in the kitchen, making coffee. "Morning," she said without looking up. "You're up early." Couldn't sleep. She looked worse than yesterday, pale, drawn, the shadows under her eyes darker. Lucas poured himself coffee and sat at the table. "You want to talk about it?" he asked. "About what?" "Whatever you're running from." Amelia was quiet for a long moment, then, "Not yet." "Okay." They sat in silence, drinking coffee as the sun came up. Outside, the chickens started making noise. The farm woke up around them, broken, but still alive. "I'll make breakfast," Amelia said eventually. "You don't have to." "Lucas?" She looked at him. "Let me help, please." So he did. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, Lucas Hayes let someone else carry part of the weight. The week became a routine. Amelia cooked. Lucas worked. Emma went to school and came home to someone who asked about her day and actually listened. Mason stopped crying as much, or maybe Lucas just stopped being too tired to comfort him properly. The farm still teetered on the edge of collapse. The foreclosure notice still sat on Lucas's dresser, a ticking clock he couldn't ignore. But the house felt different, less empty, less like a place where people survived and more like a place where they lived. On the 5th day, Amelia asked to help with the farm work. "You don't know anything about farming," Lucas said. "I can learn. It's hard work." "I'm not afraid of hard work," so he let her. And she was terrible at it, clumsy with the tools, too slow with the feeding, completely lost when it came to fixing equipment. But she tried. And she didn't complain. And when Lucas found her at the end of the day, covered in mud and chicken feed, she was laughing. "I'm a disaster," she said, wiping dirt off her face. "Yeah," Lucas agreed, "but you showed up. Something passed between them then. A recognition, maybe. An understanding that they were both just trying to survive, just trying to figure out how to keep going when everything felt impossible." That night, after Emma was asleep and Mason was down, they sat on the porch together. The sky was clear, stars scattered like broken glass across black velvet. "I was married," Amelia said suddenly. Lucas looked at her. She was staring straight ahead, her profile sharp in the moonlight. "Was?" He left 2 years ago. Took half the company, most of my board's loyalty, and all the trust I had left. She wrapped her arms around herself. I built that company from nothing. It was mine. And he turned everyone against me like it was easy. I'm sorry. Don't be. He did me a favor, showed me who people really are when you're not useful to them anymore. Is that why you're here? Because of him? Partly. Mostly because the company's board decided I was too emotional, too erratic, too much of a liability. They wanted me out, tried to force me to sell my shares, give up control. She laughed, bitter and sharp. So I walked away instead. Let them scramble without me. Figured I'd disappear until they realized how much they needed me. And if they don't, then I'll build something new. She looked at him finally. What about you? What's your story? Lucas was quiet for a long time. The night air was cool, carrying the smell of dirt and animals and growing things. My wife died, he said finally. 3 years ago, car accident. Emma was 3, I was working construction in the city. We were going to move out here once I'd saved enough for the down payment. He stared at his hands. She never got to see the farm. Never got to watch Emma grow up. Never got to meet Mason. Mason's not hers. No. Different mother, different mistake. He rubbed his face. I met someone about a year after Sarah died, grief hookup that turned into something messier. She got pregnant, decided she didn't want to be a mother, left 2 weeks after he was born. Haven't heard from her since. Jesus. Yeah. Lucas stood, stretched. So now I've got 2 kids, a failing farm, and enough debt to bury me twice. That's my story. And you're still here. Where else would I go? Amelia stood too, facing him. You're stronger than you think, Lucas. I'm not strong, I'm just stubborn. Sometimes that's the same thing. They went inside. Lucas checked on the kids, both asleep, both safe. When he came back downstairs, Amelia was standing at the kitchen counter, looking at the foreclosure notice he'd left there. How bad is it? She asked quietly. Bad. How much do you need? I'm not taking your money. Lucas, I'm not taking your money, he repeated. That's not why I let you stay. I know that, but no. They stared at each other. Amelia broke first, looking away. Stubborn, she muttered. You mentioned that. She left the notice on the counter and headed upstairs. Lucas stood alone in the kitchen, listening to the house settle around him, wondering if pride was the same thing as strength or just another word for drowning slowly. The week ended. Amelia didn't leave. Lucas didn't ask why she stayed, didn't want to examine it too closely, afraid that acknowledging it would break whatever fragile arrangement they'd stumbled into. The second week rolled into the third, and Amelia simply remained, cooking breakfast, folding laundry she had no business touching, asking Emma about homework like it mattered to her. It should have felt intrusive. Instead, it felt like the house had finally started breathing again. But the foreclosure deadline was crawling closer, and Lucas couldn't ignore it forever. He sat at the kitchen table on a Thursday morning, calculator and bills spread in front of him, doing math that refused to work no matter how many times he tried. The numbers didn't lie. He was 3 months behind on the mortgage, 2 months behind on the equipment loan, and the bank had stopped returning his calls. You're going to wear a hole in that paper, Amelia said from the doorway. Lucas looked up. She was holding Mason, the baby gnawing happily on her finger. She'd gotten comfortable with both kids in a way that should have taken months, not weeks. Emma followed her around like a shadow now, chattering endlessly about science experiments and books and whatever else crossed her 6-year-old mind. Just trying to figure out how to make rent, Lucas said flatly. I already paid you rent. That was for groceries and utilities. The mortgage is different. Amelia shifted Mason to her other hip and sat down across from him. How different? None of your business different. Lucas, I'm serious, Amelia. This isn't your problem. She was quiet for a moment, studying his face. Then she reached across the table and turned the calculator toward her, scanning the numbers he'd been wrestling with for the past hour. 42,000, she said. That's what you need. I know what I need. I could write you a check right now. No. Why not? Because I'm not a charity case, Lucas snapped, louder than he meant to. Mason startled, his face crumpling. Amelia bounced him automatically, making soothing sounds until he settled. Lower your voice, she said calmly, and stop being an idiot. Excuse me? You heard me. You're being an idiot. You have someone offering to help, and you're too proud to take it. She stood, pacing with Mason. You know what pride gets you? Nothing. It gets you exactly nothing except the satisfaction of drowning alone. I'm not asking you to save me. I know. That's the problem. She stopped, looking at him directly. Lucas, I've been where you are. Different circumstances, same desperation. And you know what I learned? Sometimes you have to swallow your pride and accept help, or you lose everything trying to prove you didn't need it. Lucas stared at the bills. $42,000. He could work 3 lifetimes and never see that kind of money free and clear. If I take it, he said slowly, it's a loan. I pay you back. With interest. I don't want... Those are the terms. Take them or leave them. Amelia considered this, still swaying with Mason. Fine. 10% interest, payment plan we work out later. Deal? Deal. She held out her hand. Lucas shook it, her grip firm and businesslike. It should have felt like defeat. Instead, it felt like he could breathe for the first time in months. I'll need a few days to move the money around, Amelia said. I can't just write a check that large without raising flags. Flags with who? Her expression shuddered. People who are looking for me. Your ex? Among others. She sat back down, Mason sprawled across her lap. There are people who want me to fail, Lucas, who want to prove I can't survive without the company, without the infrastructure they built around me. If they find out where I am, they'll use it against me. How? By making me choose between my freedom and my responsibility. By forcing me back into a life I walked away from. She looked tired suddenly, older than her 30 years. I came here to disappear, to figure out who I am without all the noise. But the money's still tied to that noise. Everything I touch is. So don't help me. Keep yourself hidden. No. She said it firmly, no hesitation. You need this. Your kids need this. I'm not going to let my problems stop me from doing something good for once. Lucas wanted to argue, wanted to tell her to protect herself first, but Emma would be home from school in an hour, and there was dinner to plan, and Mason needed a bottle, and the weight of imminent homelessness was finally starting to lift. Thank you, he said quietly. Amelia nodded. You're welcome. They didn't talk about it again. Amelia spent the next 2 days on her laptop, locked in the guest room, doing whatever financial maneuvering required to move that kind of money invisibly. Lucas worked the farm, fixed what he could, and tried not to think about what he'd just accepted. Emma noticed the shift in mood immediately. Are you happy, Daddy? She asked that night at dinner. Lucas looked up from his plate. What? You're smiling. You don't smile a lot. I smile. Not really. Not like that. Emma turned to Amelia. He's smiling, right? He is, Amelia agreed. It's a good look on him. Lucas felt his face heat. Can we not... See? Now he's embarrassed. That's even better. Emma giggled, delighted with herself. After dinner, Lucas took Emma upstairs for bath time, while Amelia handled Mason's bedtime routine. It had become their unspoken division of labor, Lucas with Emma, Amelia with the baby. It worked. Lucas tried not to examine why. He was reading Emma a bedtime story when he heard it, Amelia's voice from down the hall, singing. Not the nonsense song she usually hummed to Mason, but something real, something haunting and sad and beautiful. Emma heard it too. What's that song? I don't know, sweetheart. It's pretty. Yeah, it is. Lucas finished the story, kissed Emma goodnight, and found himself walking toward the nursery instead of his own room. The door was cracked open. Inside, Amelia sat in the old rocking chair, Mason asleep on her shoulder, still singing softly. Hey, Lucas said quietly. She looked up, startled, stopped singing. Sorry, did I wake Emma? No, she liked it. He leaned against the doorframe. What was that song? Something my mother used to sing, before she decided I was more useful as a business asset than a daughter. Amelia stood carefully, transferring Mason to his crib. The baby didn't wake. She died 5 years ago, lung cancer. We hadn't spoken in 3. I'm sorry. Don't be. We made our choices. She adjusted Mason's blanket, her movements gentle despite the bitterness in her voice. She wanted me to marry someone appropriate, someone who could expand the family business. I wanted to build my own company, make my own choices. We fought about it until we stopped fighting and just stopped talking. Is that what happened with your ex? He was appropriate? Amelia laughed, sharp and humorless. Oh, he was perfect. Rich family, good connections, everything my mother wanted. And I convinced myself I wanted it too. Convinced myself that building an empire together was the same as love. She moved past Lucas into the hallway. Turns out empires are easier to build than relationships. They went downstairs. Amelia poured herself a glass of wine from a bottle she'd bought during one of her grocery runs. Lucas grabbed a beer from the fridge, also courtesy of her shopping, and they ended up on the porch again, watching the sun finish its descent. Can I ask you something? Lucas said after a while. Sure. Why are you really here? And don't give me the running away answer. There's more to it than that. Amelia took a long drink of wine. You want the truth? Always. I'm here because I was tired of being empty. Tired of building things that didn't matter, making money I didn't need, surrounded by people who only cared what I could do for them. She stared out at the fields, gone dark and formless in the twilight. I came here looking for something real, something that wasn't performance or strategy or chess moves disguised as relationships. And I found a man raising 2 kids alone on a farm that's falling apart, who's too stubborn to ask for help and too decent to turn away a stranger at 3 a.m. She looked at him. You're real, Lucas. This is real, and I haven't felt real in years. Something in Lucas's chest tightened. I'm not. I'm barely keeping it together, Amelia. You see that, right? This place is a disaster. I'm a disaster. You're not a disaster. You're exhausted. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. She set her wine glass down. A disaster gives up. You're still here, still fighting, still trying to give your kids a life worth living. That's not a disaster. That's someone who refuses to quit even when quitting would be easier. Lucas didn't know what to say to that. They sat in silence for a while, the night settling around them like a blanket. The money will be ready tomorrow, Amelia said eventually. I'll transfer it to your account in the morning. Thank you. Stop thanking me. We made a deal. Business transaction. Right. Business. But it didn't feel like business. It felt like something else entirely. The money hit Lucas's account the next morning, $42,000, exactly as promised. He stared at the balance on his phone screen, unable to quite believe it. Emma was at school. Mason was napping. Amelia was in the barn, attempting to fix a broken gate with tools she barely knew how to use. Lucas found her cursing at a stubborn bolt, her fancy jeans smeared with grease. You're doing it wrong, he said. I'm aware. He took the wrench from her hands, loosened the bolt with 2 quick motions. You need leverage, obviously. She stepped back, wiping her hands on her jeans and making it worse. Did the transfer go through? Yeah, I'm calling the bank this afternoon. Good. They stood there awkwardly, the gate between them half repaired and useless. Lucas felt like he should say something meaningful, something that captured what this meant, but words felt inadequate. I won't forget this, he said finally. I know. I mean it, Amelia. You saved us. You would have found another way. No, I wouldn't have. He set the wrench down. I was out of options, out of time, out of everything except stubbornness. You didn't save the farm. You saved my kids' home. There's a difference. Amelia looked uncomfortable with the gratitude. Lucas, just let me say thank you, properly. You already did. Not enough. She met his eyes then, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. The acknowledgement that this was more than a business transaction, more than a stranger helping a stranger. You're welcome, she said quietly. Properly. Lucas smiled despite himself. Now, show me what you were trying to do with this gate. They worked together for the next hour, Lucas teaching and Amelia learning with the same fierce focus she applied to everything. She was getting better, still clumsy, still slow, but better. By the time Emma's bus pulled up, the gate was functional again. Emma burst off the bus like she always did, backpack flying. Daddy, Amelia, guess what? What, sweetheart? Mrs. Patterson said we're doing a science fair, a real one, with experiments and displays and everything. She was bouncing now, unable to contain her excitement. Can I do one? Please? I already have an idea about plant growth and different types of soil. Slow down, Lucas laughed. Yes, you can do the science fair. Amelia, will you help me? You know about science? Amelia glanced at Lucas, who nodded. Sure. What's your hypothesis? My what? Your hypothesis. The thing you're trying to prove. Emma's face scrunched in concentration. I think plants grow better in good soil than bad soil. That's a start, but we need to be more specific. What makes soil good versus bad? They launched into an animated discussion about nutrients and pH levels and control groups, Emma hanging on every word. Lucas watched them, something warm and unsettling stirring in his chest. This was what he'd wanted for Emma. Someone who took her seriously, who treated her mind like it mattered. Sarah would have been this person. She would have loved watching Emma get excited about science, would have helped with the project without making it feel like a chore. The thought should have hurt. Instead, it felt like permission. That night, after the kids were asleep, Lucas called the bank. The conversation was short, businesslike. Yes, he could make a lump sum payment. Yes, that would bring the mortgage current. No, he didn't need an extension on the equipment loan. He'd pay that in full, too. When he hung up, his hands were shaking. You okay? Amelia asked. She was at the kitchen table, her laptop open, working on something she wouldn't explain. I just paid off 3 months of mortgage and cleared a loan I've been drowning in for 2 years. That's good, right? Yeah, that's good. He sat down across from her, suddenly exhausted. I can't believe this is real. It's real. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's no other shoe, Lucas. You're current on your bills. The farm is yours. You did it. We did it. Amelia closed her laptop. Okay, we did it. What are you working on? Something that might be incredibly stupid or incredibly brilliant. Haven't decided yet. That's specific. I'm not ready to talk about it. She stood, stretching. But if it works, I might not have to hide forever. What does that mean? It means I'm working on a way to take my company back, or build a new one. Whichever comes first. She looked at him, expression unreadable. But that's future Amelia's problem. Present Amelia is going to bed before she falls asleep on your kitchen table. She left before Lucas could respond. He sat alone in the kitchen, surrounded by paid bills and impossible relief, wondering what would happen when Amelia stopped running and started fighting back. The days developed a rhythm. Lucas worked the farm with Amelia's help, actual help now, as she got better with the tools and the animals. Emma threw herself into the science fair project with obsessive focus, turning the kitchen into a laboratory of potted plants and data charts. Mason started sleeping through the night, which felt like its own small miracle. And slowly, carefully, Lucas started to relax, started to believe that maybe the crisis had passed, that maybe they'd actually survived this. He should have known better. The first sign came on a Tuesday. Emma got off the bus looking shaken, her usual enthusiasm dimmed. What's wrong? Lucas asked immediately. Nothing. Emma, I said nothing. She ran past him into the house, door slamming behind her. Lucas found her in her room, face down on the bed. Talk to me, sweetheart. Some kids at school said things. What kind of things? About you and Amelia. Emma's voice was muffled by the pillow. They said she's your girlfriend and that's why she lives here and that you're going to get married and forget about Mom. Lucas felt something cold settle in his stomach. That's not true. I know that. Then what's wrong? Emma rolled over, eyes red. What if it is true? What if you do forget? Emma, I could never forget your mom. Never. She was... His voice cracked. She was everything, and she gave me you. Nothing could make me forget that. But you like Amelia. It wasn't a question. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed, trying to find the right words. Amelia is helping us. She's a friend. Do you want her to be more than a friend? I don't... Emma, that's not... He stopped, took a breath. I don't know. Maybe. But that doesn't mean I'm forgetting your mom. It means I'm trying to figure out how to live again. There's a difference. The kid said she's too fancy for us, that she's only here because she feels sorry for you. Do you believe that? Emma was quiet for a long moment. No, I think she likes us. So do I. But what if she leaves? What if she goes back to her fancy life and we never see her again? Lucas didn't have an answer for that, because the truth was, he'd been thinking the same thing. wondering how long this fragile peace would last before Amelia's real life caught up with her. I don't know, sweetheart, but we'll be okay either way. Promise? He wanted to promise, wanted to tell her that nothing would change, that they were safe now. But he'd learned the hard way that promises meant nothing against the universe's indifference. I promise I'll do everything I can to keep us together and safe. That's the best I can do. Emma nodded, not quite satisfied but accepting it. Lucas left her to decompress, heading back downstairs. Amelia was in the living room with Mason, reading him a board book about farm animals. She looked up when Lucas entered. Is Emma okay? Kids at school said some stuff about us. Ah. Amelia set the book down. What kind of stuff? That you're my girlfriend. That we're together. Lucas ran a hand through his hair. Small towns. Everyone knows everyone's business. And they've decided I'm your business. Something like that. Amelia was quiet, absently stroking Mason's hair. The baby was almost asleep, thumb in his mouth. Does it bother you? She asked. What they're saying? It bothers Emma. That's not what I asked. Lucas met her eyes. I don't know. Does it bother you? Not as much as it probably should. The air between them felt charged suddenly, heavy with things unsaid. Mason started to fuss, breaking the moment. Amelia stood, cradling him. I'll put him down, she said. Amelia, we should probably talk about this. Just not right now. She headed for the stairs. Let me get him settled first. Lucas stood alone in the living room, heart beating too fast, wondering what the hell he was doing, wondering if Emma's classmates had seen something he'd been too scared to admit. 20 minutes later, Amelia came back downstairs. Lucas was on the porch, staring at nothing. Okay, she said, sitting beside him. Let's talk. About what? About whatever this is. Because clearly, it's something. Lucas was quiet for a long moment. I don't know what this is. Neither do I, but Emma's worried and she shouldn't have to worry about adult problems. No, she shouldn't. So we need to figure it out. Are we… Amelia hesitated. Are we just two people helping each other through hard times, or is this something else? What do you want it to be? I asked first. Lucas looked at her, really looked. Saw the woman who'd shown up at 3 a.m. looking for escape. The woman who'd learned to fix fences and fold laundry and sing his son to sleep. The woman who'd saved his home without asking for anything in return except a place to belong. I don't know, he said honestly. I know I like having you here. I know my kids are happier. I know the house feels less empty. But I don't know if that's because you're you or because you're just someone who's not me. That's fair. What about you? What do you want? Amelia pulled her knees to her chest, looking younger suddenly. Vulnerable. I want to stay. Not forever, maybe. But longer than I probably should. And I don't know if that's because I'm hiding from my real life or because this feels more real than anything I left behind. So we're both confused. Comprehensively. They sat in silence for a while. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. We should probably keep things simple, Lucas said finally. For Emma's sake, for everyone's sake. Agreed. But I don't want you to leave. Not yet. I'm not planning to. Good. Amelia stood, brushing off her jeans. I should start dinner. Amelia? She turned. Yeah? Thank you for being honest. You too. She went inside. Lucas stayed on the porch, watching the light fade, trying to convince himself that simple was possible when nothing about this situation felt simple at all. The week passed in careful normalcy. Lucas and Amelia maintained a polite distance, their interactions friendly but bounded. Emma seemed to relax, reassured by whatever she saw between them. Mason remained oblivious, happy as long as someone fed him and changed his diaper on schedule. But Lucas couldn't stop thinking about their conversation. Couldn't stop noticing the way Amelia laughed at Emma's jokes, the way she hummed while cooking, the way she looked first thing in the morning before she put on her armor of expensive clothes and careful composure. He was in trouble. He knew it, but he didn't know what to do about it. The answer came on a Friday evening, sudden and catastrophic. Lucas was in the barn, finishing evening chores, when he heard tires on gravel. He looked up to see a sleek black sedan pulling up the driveway, expensive, out of place, wrong. Two men got out. Both wore suits that cost more than Lucas's truck. Both moved with the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "Lucas Hayes," the taller one called. Lucas set down the feed bucket, walking toward them slowly. "Who's asking?" "My name is Richard Caldwell. I'm looking for Amelia Sterling." Everything in Lucas went cold. "Don't know anyone by that name." "Really?" Caldwell smiled, sharp and unfriendly. "Because our investigators tracked her phone to this location 3 weeks ago, before she was smart enough to ditch it. Like I said, don't know her." "Mr. Hayes, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to bring Amelia home. She's needed at Sterling Enterprises. The board is ready to reinstate her if she returns immediately." "Good for the board." "You don't understand. Amelia is not... She's not well. She's not thinking clearly. She needs people who care about her, who can help her." "Get off my property." Caldwell's smile vanished. "Excuse me?" "You heard me. Get off my property before I call the sheriff." "Mr. Hayes, I don't think you appreciate the situation. Amelia Sterling is a very important person. She has responsibilities, obligations. She's a person, not a possession, and she doesn't want to see you." "How would you know what she wants?" "Because if she wanted you to find her, she wouldn't have come here." The second man stepped forward, hand moving toward his jacket. Lucas tensed, ready to fight if necessary. But before anything could escalate, the front door opened. "Richard," Amelia stood on the porch, her voice cold and flat. She'd changed since the morning, back in her expensive clothes, hair pulled back tight, every inch the billionaire instead of the woman who'd been singing to Mason an hour ago. "Amelia," Caldwell's expression shifted to concern, so practiced it looked genuine. "Thank God. We've been so worried. Save it." She walked down the steps, putting herself between Lucas and the men. "I know why you're here." "Then you know we need you back. The company is hemorrhaging value without you. The board realizes they made a mistake. The board tried to force me out. They wanted me gone so badly they leaked confidential information to tank our stock price and justify removing me." Amelia's voice was ice. "Don't pretend this is about wanting me back. This is about damage control." "Amelia, that's not... Did you think I wouldn't find out? That I wouldn't have people still loyal to me?" She crossed her arms. "I know about the vote. I know about the emergency meeting. I know you're bleeding clients because no one trusts Sterling Enterprises without a Sterling actually running it." Caldwell's mask cracked slightly. "If you know all that, then you know you need to come back. Fix this. Save the company your family built." "My family built nothing. I built that company. Me. And you tried to take it from me. We were trying to protect you. You were trying to control me. There's a difference." Amelia stepped closer, her voice dropping to something dangerous. "Go back to New York, Richard. Tell the board I'll return when I'm ready. On my terms. Not before. Amelia, be reasonable." "I am being reasonable. Reasonable would be burning the whole thing down and watching you scramble for new jobs. This?" She gestured dismissively. "This is mercy. Take it and go." Caldwell looked at Lucas, then back at Amelia. "You're really choosing this? A failing farm in the middle of nowhere over everything we built?" "I'm choosing myself, something you never let me do." "The board won't wait forever." "Then I guess they'll learn patience." Caldwell stared at her for a long moment, then turned to Lucas. "I hope you know what you're getting into. Amelia Sterling destroys everything she touches." "Funny," Lucas said. "She's only built things since she got here." The men got back in their car and drove away, tires spitting gravel. Lucas and Amelia stood in the driveway watching until the taillights disappeared. "You okay?" Lucas asked quietly. "No." Amelia's composure cracked slightly, her hands shaking. "But I will be." "How did they find you?" "I don't know. I was careful. Ditched my phone, used cash, didn't tell anyone where I was going." She pressed her palms to her eyes. "They must have tracked the money transfer. I thought I'd routed it through enough accounts, but hey." Lucas touched her shoulder gently. "It's okay. They're gone. For now, but they'll be back. And next time they'll bring lawyers or private investigators or whatever it takes to drag me back." She looked at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I've brought my mess to your doorstep. I can handle it." "Can you? Because these people don't play fair. They'll dig up everything about you, use it against both of us. Let them dig. I've got nothing to hide. Everyone has something to hide. Lucas thought about Emma, about Mason, about the foreclosure notice that had nearly destroyed them, about Sarah, about Mason's mother, about every mistake and failure that had led him here. Maybe, he admitted, but I'm not scared of them, and I'm not letting them take you. Why? Amelia asked. Why do you care what happens to me? Lucas didn't have a good answer, or rather, he had an answer he wasn't ready to say out loud. Because you saved my home, he said instead, and I protect what's mine. It wasn't the whole truth, but it was enough for now. Inside, Emma was helping Mason stack blocks in the living room. She looked up when they entered, immediately sensing something wrong. Who were those men? Nobody important, Amelia said, her voice steady again. Just some people from my old job. Are they going to make you leave? No, sweetheart. I'm staying right here. Emma studied her face, then nodded, satisfied. She went back to the blocks. Mason knocked them over, giggling. The normal domestic chaos resumed like nothing had happened, but Lucas saw the tension in Amelia's shoulders, the way her hands wouldn't stop moving, the fear she was trying to hide. They were coming for her, and this time running wouldn't be enough. That night, after Emma and Mason were both asleep, Amelia sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the screen. Lucas found her there at midnight, still typing furiously. You should sleep, he said. Can't. I need to figure out how they tracked the money. Her eyes never left the screen. And I need to build a case. A case for what? For why the board had no legal right to remove me. For why their vote was invalid. For why I still own controlling interest in Sterling Enterprises, whether they like it or not. Lucas pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. You're going back. Eventually, but not because they want me to. Because I'm going to take back what's mine. She finally looked up, and her expression was harder than he'd ever seen it. They thought they could wait me out, thought I'd come crawling back desperate and willing to accept whatever scraps they offered. But I'm done being manageable. What does that mean? It means I'm going to fight, really fight, and it's going to get ugly. How ugly? Amelia closed the laptop. The kind of ugly that ends up in newspapers, courtrooms. The kind that destroys reputations and burns bridges and leaves nothing standing when it's over. And you're okay with that? I don't have a choice. If I don't fight now, they'll own me forever. They'll use me as a figurehead while stripping away everything I built. I can't let that happen. Lucas understood that kind of desperation, the kind that came from having your back against a wall with no way out except through. What do you need? He asked. Time, space to work, and maybe, she hesitated, maybe someone who believes I'm not crazy for trying. You're not crazy. Richard thinks I am. The board thinks I am. My ex-husband spent 2 years convincing everyone I was too emotional, too unstable, too female to run a company properly. Her voice went tight. So yeah, having someone believe I'm capable means something. I believe you're capable of anything. That's what scares me. Amelia almost smiled. Should I take that as a compliment? Take it however you want. Just don't burn yourself out before the fight even starts. She nodded and stood, closing the laptop. I'll try to sleep. No promises. Lucas watched her head upstairs, then sat alone in the dark kitchen, wondering how long they had before Caldwell and his people came back with a bigger hammer. The answer came sooner than expected. 3 days later, Lucas got a call from the bank. The woman on the other end was professional but cold, her words carefully chosen. Mr. Hayes, we need to discuss some irregularities with your recent mortgage payment. Lucas felt ice in his stomach. What irregularities? The source of the funds. We've received notice that the money may have been transferred improperly. Until we can verify the legitimacy of the transaction, we're placing a hold on your account. You can't do that. I'm afraid we can, sir. It's standard procedure when fraud is suspected. There's no fraud. That money was a loan from a friend. We'll need documentation. Loan agreements, tax statements, proof of the originating account's legitimacy. Until then, the hold remains in place. Lucas hung up, hands shaking with rage. He found Amelia in the barn trying to fix a broken water trough with determination and no actual skill. They're freezing my account, he said without preamble. Amelia's face went pale. What? The bank. They got a call about fraud, about your money transfer. He wanted to punch something. This was Caldwell, wasn't it? This is him trying to force you back. Probably. Or someone on the board who wants to prove I'm unstable by showing I'm throwing money around recklessly. She set down the wrench, her expression stricken. Lucas, I'm so sorry. Don't apologize. Just tell me how to fix it. I'll call the bank. Provide whatever documentation they need. Prove the money was legitimate. And if that's not enough, then I'll pay your mortgage directly. Bypass the whole thing. Amelia, I'm not letting them use you to get to me. I won't. But it got worse before it got better. That afternoon, Emma came home from school crying again. This time, a teacher had pulled her aside to ask if everything was okay at home, if the woman living with them was a relative, if Emma felt safe. They think something bad is happening, Emma sobbed. They asked if you were hurting me or if Amelia was mean to me, and I said no, but they didn't believe me. Lucas held his daughter, fury building in his chest. It's okay, sweetheart. They're just checking, making sure you're safe. But I am safe. Why don't they believe me? Because someone had planted doubt. Someone had made sure the school knew to look for problems where none existed. Lucas called the principal, demanded to know who had contacted them. The answer was vague. An anonymous tip about a child in distress, concerns about unstable home environment, standard protocol to investigate. When he hung up, Amelia was standing in the doorway. This is my fault, she said. No, this is them being vindictive. Same thing. She looked shattered. They're attacking you through your kids. That's lower than I thought they'd go. Then we hit back. How? I don't know yet, but I'm not letting them destroy my family because you wouldn't play their games. Amelia walked to the window, staring out at the farm. Maybe I should just go back. End this before they hurt you worse. No. Lucas, no. You run now, they win. They learn they can control you by threatening people you care about. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then stay, fight, and let me help. She turned, eyes bright with unshed tears. Why are you doing this? Why are you risking everything for me? Lucas didn't have a good answer. Or rather, he had an answer that terrified him. Because you're not alone anymore, he said instead. And neither am I. They spent the evening making calls. Amelia contacted her lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia who'd stayed loyal when everyone else bailed. Lucas called his own lawyer, a small-town guy who mostly handled wills and property disputes, but was willing to try. They built a case for harassment, for unlawful interference, for every dirty trick Caldwell and the board were pulling. It wasn't much, but it was something. Emma's science fair project became a welcome distraction. She threw herself into it with obsessive focus, measuring soil pH and plant growth with equipment Amelia had ordered online. The kitchen table became a laboratory, covered in notebooks and specimens and hand-drawn charts. This one grew 3 centimeters, Emma announced one evening, showing Amelia a sad-looking seedling. The control only grew 1. Good data. Make sure you record it. I did. See? Emma showed her the notebook, filled with careful measurements in wobbly handwriting. Amelia studied it seriously. Your methodology is solid, but we should add more trials. Test it with different plant species to see if the results hold. Different plants? Sure, try beans, tomatoes, maybe some herbs. See if the soil quality affects them all the same way, or if some plants are more adaptable. Emma's eyes went wide. That's brilliant. Can we do that? We can try. Lucas watched them from the doorway, something warm and painful expanding in his chest. This was what he'd wanted for Emma, someone who took her seriously, who pushed her to think bigger. Sarah would have loved Amelia, would have appreciated the way she treated Emma like a small scientist instead of a child playing at science. The thought should have felt like betrayal. Instead, it felt like permission. That night, after the kids were finally asleep, Lucas found Amelia on the porch again. She'd started spending her evenings there, laptop balanced on her knees, working late into the night. You're going to burn out, he said, sitting beside her. Probably. But I'm close to something. She turned the screen toward him. Look at this. It was a spreadsheet full of numbers Lucas didn't understand. What am I looking at? Proof that the board meeting where they voted to remove me was illegal. 3 members weren't properly notified. 2 had conflicts of interest they didn't disclose. And the vote itself violated our corporate bylaws. So you can overturn it? If I can get it in front of a judge, yeah, but that requires going back to New York, filing motions, making it public. Are you ready for that? Amelia closed the laptop. I don't know. Going back means walking back into everything I ran from. The pressure, the spotlight, the constant performance. And if I lose, if the judge sides with them, I'll have nothing left. You'll have this. This? Lucas gestured at the farm, the house, the life they'd accidentally built together. This. A place to come back to. People who give a damn whether you win or lose. Lucas, I mean it. You're not fighting alone anymore. She looked at him for a long moment, something vulnerable and scared in her expression. What if I mess this up? What if I drag you into something you can't get out of? Then we'll deal with it, together. You say that now. I say it because I mean it. Lucas reached over, took her hand. It was the first time he'd touched her intentionally, and her fingers were cold. You saved my home. The least I can do is stand beside you while you fight for yours. Amelia's breath hitched. For a moment, Lucas thought she might pull away. Instead, she squeezed his hand back. Thank you, she whispered. They sat like that for a while, hands linked, watching the stars come out. It felt like a promise neither of them was ready to name. The next morning, Amelia got a call from Patricia. Lucas heard her side of the conversation from the kitchen, clipped, professional, increasingly frustrated. No, I understand. Yes, I'll be there. Friday, fine. Yes, I'll bring everything. She hung up and stood there, staring at her phone. What happened? Lucas asked. The board filed for an emergency injunction. They're trying to freeze all my assets, claiming I'm liquidating company property for personal use. She laughed, bitter and sharp. Which is nonsense, but they're making it public. There's going to be a hearing on Friday in New York. Can you win? If I show up, maybe. If I don't, they win by default, and I lose everything. She looked at him. I have to go back. Lucas felt something sink in his chest. Okay. I'll be gone a few days. A week, maybe. Depends on how fast we can move through the legal system. What do you need? Nothing, just... She hesitated. Can you tell Emma I'm not leaving forever? That I'm coming back? Of course. She's going to think I'm running out on her. I'll make sure she knows better. Amelia nodded, already pulling up plane schedules on her phone. I should pack. She was upstairs for an hour. Lucas could hear her moving around, the sound of drawers opening and closing. When she came back down, she was wearing her New York armor, the expensive suit, the severe hair, the expression that said she was ready for war. Emma was at school. Mason was napping. The house felt too quiet. When do you leave? Lucas asked. There's a flight at 3. I'll drive to the city, leave the truck at the airport. I could drive you... No. You need to stay with the kids. She set her bag down, looked at him directly. Lucas, I need to ask you something. Okay. If this goes badly, if I lose the company, if I can't come back, will you be okay? That's not going to happen. But if it does, then you come back anyway. You rebuild. You figure out what's next. He stepped closer. You don't disappear on us just because you lose a fight. I might not have a choice. There's always a choice. Amelia looked like she wanted to argue. Instead, she just nodded. I'll call when I land. She picked up her bag and headed for the door. Lucas followed her outside, watching as she threw her stuff in the truck. Amelia, he called as she opened the driver's door. She turned. Yeah? Win or lose, you've got a place here. Remember that. Her expression cracked slightly. I will. Then she was gone, the truck disappearing down the driveway in a cloud of dust. Lucas stood there long after she'd vanished, feeling like he'd just made a promise he didn't know how to keep. Emma took the news badly. She left? Her voice went high and panicked. She just left? She had to go back to New York for work. She'll be back in a few days. That's what adults always say when they're not coming back. Emma, Mom said she'd be right back, and then she died. Mason's mom said she'd think about it, and then she disappeared. Everyone leaves. She was crying now, big hiccuping sobs. Why does everyone always leave? Lucas pulled her into a hug, his own chest tight. Amelia's not leaving forever, she promised. How do you know? Because she told me, and I believe her. What if you're wrong? Then we'll deal with it. But I don't think I'm wrong. Emma cried herself out against his shoulder, then pulled back, wiping her eyes. She better come back. She will. She has to help me with my science fair project. We're doing the second trial this weekend. I'm sure she'll be back by then. But Lucas wasn't sure of anything. He spent the rest of the week in a strange limbo, going through the motions of farm work and parenting while his mind stayed focused on New York. Amelia called every night, brief updates about lawyers and judges and motions filed. She sounded tired, stretched thin, like the armor she'd put back on was cutting into her skin. "How's Emma?" she asked Thursday night. "Worried you're not coming back." "I am, I promise." "I know. She's having trouble believing it. Can I talk to her?" Lucas handed the phone to Emma, who'd been hovering nearby, pretending not to listen. She took it hesitantly. "Hello?" Whatever Amelia said made Emma's face relax slightly. "Okay, yeah, I recorded everything. The beans grew the fastest." A pause. "Really? You promise?" Another pause, and Emma actually smiled. "Okay, I'll wait. But you have to be back by Saturday because that's when we present." She handed the phone back to Lucas. "She's really coming back." "I told you." "Yeah, but now she told me too. That's different." Lucas took the phone back. "Amelia? Hey, you okay?" "No, but I'm winning, so that's something." She sighed. "The hearing is tomorrow. Patricia thinks we have a strong case. If the judge rules in our favor, the injunction gets thrown out and I can countersue for damages. And if they don't rule in your favor, then I lose everything and have to start over." She was quiet for a moment. "Lucas, there's something I need to tell you." "What?" "If I lose tomorrow, if this whole thing falls apart, I'm still coming back, at least for a few days to say goodbye properly, to help Emma with her project, to—" She stopped. "To see you." Lucas felt something tighten in his chest. "You don't have to justify coming back. I know. But I wanted you to know it wasn't about having nowhere else to go. It's about wanting to be there. Amelia, I should go. Big day tomorrow. I'll call when it's over." She hung up before Lucas could respond. He stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, trying to figure out when exactly Amelia Sterling had stopped being a stranger and started being someone he couldn't imagine losing. Friday dragged on forever. Lucas threw himself into farm work, fixing things that didn't need fixing, organizing things that were fine disorganized. Emma was a wreck, snapping at Mason and picking fights over nothing. By evening, they were all wound tight, waiting for a call that felt like it would never come. The phone finally rang at 8 o'clock. "We won," Amelia said without preamble. She sounded exhausted and exhilarated in equal measure. The judge threw out the injunction, called it a transparent attempt at corporate intimidation. "We're filing counter motions on Monday." "That's incredible." "It's not over. They'll appeal, drag this out as long as possible. But we won the first round." She laughed, slightly manic. "I actually won. I told you that you would. You believed in me more than I believed in myself." Someone had to. Emma was tugging on his sleeve. "Is that Amelia? Did she win? Is she coming home?" Lucas handed over the phone. Emma grabbed it like a lifeline. "You won! I knew you would. Are you coming back? When? Tomorrow?" She listened, face breaking into a huge smile. Okay, I'll get everything ready. We can practice the presentation and you can help me make graphs. Yes, actual graphs. I know they're important. Okay, see you tomorrow." She handed the phone back, bouncing with excitement. "She's coming home tomorrow. She's flying back in the morning." Home. Emma had said home, not back to the farm or back here. Home. "That's great, sweetheart. Now go get ready for bed. It's late." Emma ran upstairs, her earlier despair completely forgotten. Lucas put the phone back to his ear. "You still there?" "Yeah," Amelia said softly. "Lucas, you don't have to say it." "Say what?" "Whatever you're working yourself up to say. Just come back. The rest we'll figure out." She was quiet for a moment. "I'm scared." "Of what?" "Of wanting this too much, of getting comfortable when I should be fighting, of letting myself believe I can have both the company and this life when I probably can't." "Why can't you?" "Because one of them always loses." That's how it works. Maybe it doesn't have to. Lucas, I don't know how to do this. How to be the person who fights for her company while also being the person who helps Emma with science projects and learns to fix gates. I don't know how to split myself like that. Then don't split yourself. Just be you, all of you, and figure out the rest as you go. Amelia laughed, watery and tired. That sounds terrifying. It is, but you're good at terrifying. I'll be back tomorrow. Late afternoon, probably. We'll be here. Lucas? Yeah? Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for not giving up on us. She hung up. Lucas stood in the kitchen, feeling like something fundamental had shifted, like they'd crossed a line neither of them could uncross, and he wasn't sure if that was terrifying or exactly what he wanted. Amelia's flight landed at 4 the next afternoon. Lucas wasn't there to pick her up, couldn't leave the kids, but he watched the clock obsessively, tracking her estimated arrival. Emma had cleaned the entire house, made a welcome home banner out of construction paper, and stress-baked cookies with ingredients Amelia had bought weeks ago. What if she doesn't like them? Emma worried, staring at the slightly burnt edges. She'll love them because you made them. But they're ugly. They're perfect. The truck finally pulled up at 6:30. Emma was out the door before Amelia had even turned off the engine, launching herself at the woman who caught her with a surprised laugh. I missed you, Emma said, muffled against Amelia's shoulder. I missed you too, sweetheart. Did you really win? Like really, really? Really, really. First round, anyway. Are you going to have to go back? Eventually, but not for a while. Amelia pulled back, looking at Emma seriously. And when I do go back, I'll always come home again. I promise. You better. We have to finish the science project. Lucas watched from the porch, Mason on his hip. Amelia caught his eye over Emma's head, and something passed between them. Relief, recognition, something deeper he wasn't ready to name. She walked over, Emma still attached to her side. Hey. Hey yourself, welcome back. It's good to be back. She reached out, touched Mason's hand. The baby grabbed her finger, holding tight. How was he? Fussy. He missed you too. I find that hard to believe. Believe it. They went inside. Emma immediately dragged Amelia to the kitchen to show her the cookies and the updated science project data. Amelia examined everything with serious attention, asking questions and making suggestions. Lucas started dinner, actual cooking, which he'd gotten better at through osmosis from watching Amelia, and listened to them talk. This was what family sounded like. Not perfect, not smooth, but real, full of arguments and laughter and people who chose to show up for each other even when it was hard. After dinner, after Emma was in bed and Mason was down for the night, Lucas found Amelia in the guest room. She'd changed out of her New York clothes into jeans and a sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. She looked like herself again. Can we talk? He asked from the doorway. Sure, come in. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly nervous. I've been thinking about what you said, about not knowing how to split yourself between your company and this life. And I think you're looking at it wrong. You're not splitting yourself. You're just being complete. Being the person who runs a company and the person who helps kids with homework. Both of those are you. That's easier said than done. Yeah, it is, but you're already doing it. You won your court case and you promised Emma you'd help with her project. You're balancing both. Amelia was quiet for a moment. What if I can't keep it up? What if one starts taking over and the other suffers? Then we adjust. That's what people do. They figure it out as they go. We, Amelia repeated softly. You keep saying we. Lucas met her eyes. Because that's what this is, whether we're calling it that or not. Lucas, I need to know. She stopped, looking scared in a way he'd never seen. I need to know if this is real. If you want me here because you want me, or because I'm useful. You think I'd let just anyone into my kids' lives? You think I'd stand up to corporate lawyers for someone I saw as useful? I don't know what to think. I've been used so many times I can't tell the difference anymore. Lucas stood, crossed to where she sat, and took her hands. I want you here because you make everything better. The house, the farm, my kids' lives, my life. Not because you cook or clean or pay for groceries. Because you're you, and I don't want to imagine this place without you in it. That's a lot. I know. And if it's too much, tell me. But I'm done pretending this is temporary or casual or just two people helping each other out. Amelia looked down at their joined hands. I'm still going to have to go back to New York sometimes, for the legal battles, for rebuilding the company. I can't promise I'll be here all the time. I don't need you here all the time. I just need to know you're coming back. I will, always. She looked up at him. I don't know how to do this, Lucas. How to let someone in again after everything that happened. Neither do I. So we figure it out together, make mistakes, try again. That sounds exhausting. Probably, but worth it. Amelia smiled, small and uncertain, but real. Okay. Okay? Okay, let's try. Let's figure out what this is. Lucas felt something settle in his chest. Not relief exactly, more like rightness, like pieces finally clicking into place. Good, he said. They sat there for a moment, hands still linked, the weight of the decision hanging between them. Then Amelia stood, pulling him up with her. I should sleep. Tomorrow's the science fair, and Emma will have me up at dawn. Probably. Lucas? Yeah? Thank you. For seeing me. The real me. Not just the billionaire or the disaster or the woman running from her problems. Thank you for staying, for choosing us. She kissed his cheek, quick and soft, then pulled back, looking embarrassed. Good night. Good night, Amelia. Lucas left before he could do something stupid like pull her close and kiss her properly. They had time for that. Time to figure out what they were building, brick by uncertain brick. For now, it was enough to know she was here, that she'd chosen to come back, that maybe, just maybe, they were both done running from the things that mattered. Emma was up before dawn, just like Amelia predicted. Lucas heard her footsteps thundering down the hallway at 5:30 in the morning, followed by urgent knocking on the guest room door. Amelia, wake up! We have to practice! Lucas intercepted her before she could knock again. Emma, it's 5:30. I know. The fair starts at 9. We need to practice the presentation and make sure all the plants look good and check the graphs. Breathe, sweetheart. The guest room door opened. Amelia stood there in pajamas, hair messy, looking more human than Lucas had ever seen her. It's okay. I'm up. Really? Emma bounced on her toes. Can we start now? Give me 10 minutes to get dressed and caffeinated. Then we'll go over everything. Emma ran back to her room. Lucas looked at Amelia apologetically. Sorry, she's been wound up about this for days. Don't be. I love that she cares this much. Amelia rubbed her eyes. Coffee? Already brewing. They went downstairs together. The kitchen was still dark, the sun just starting to paint the horizon gray. Lucas poured coffee while Amelia sat at the table, looking content in a way she never did in her corporate armor. You didn't have to come back for this, Lucas said. The science fair, I could have helped her. I wanted to. I promised. She wrapped her hands around the mug. And honestly, this is the most normal thing I've done in years. Helping a kid with a school project. It feels good. Even at 5:30 in the morning? Even then. Emma appeared with her project board, plants, and 3 notebooks full of data. For the next 2 hours, they ran through the presentation repeatedly. Amelia was patient but exacting, making Emma explain her methodology clearly, pushing her to defend her conclusions with evidence. Why do you think the enriched soil produced better results? Amelia asked. Because it has more nutrients? That's not specific enough. What nutrients? Why do those nutrients matter for plant growth? Emma flipped through her notes. Nitrogen helps leaves grow. Phosphorus helps roots. Potassium helps the whole plant stay healthy. Better. Now explain it like I'm someone who doesn't know anything about plants. They went through it again and again. By the time they had to leave for school, Emma could deliver her presentation in her sleep. Lucas drove them in the truck, project carefully secured in the back, Amelia riding shotgun with Mason in her lap. The elementary school gym was transformed into a science fair wonderland. Dozens of display boards, kids in various states of nervousness, parents hovering anxiously. Emma found her assigned spot and started setting up with Amelia's help. Lucas stood back with Mason, watching them work together like they'd been doing this for years. Mr. Hayes? He turned. A woman in her 50s with kind eyes and teacher clothes approached. I'm Mrs. Patterson, Emma's teacher. Right. Nice to finally meet you. And you must be... She looked at Amelia uncertainly. Amelia Sterling, Amelia said, extending her hand. Family friend? Mrs. Patterson's expression shifted slightly. Recognition, maybe. Or suspicion. I see. Well, Emma's project is quite impressive. She clearly had excellent guidance. She did all the work herself, Amelia said. I just asked questions. Important questions, apparently. Mrs. Patterson smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. If you'll excuse me, I need to finish setting up. She walked away. Lucas watched her go, uneasy prickling at the back of his neck. She knows who you are, he said quietly. Probably. I'm not exactly subtle. Amelia adjusted one of Emma's plant displays. Does it bother you? Not yet, but I'm waiting for it to. The fair started at 9. Parents and students circulated. Judges moved from project to project with clipboards, and Emma stood by her display looking terrified and excited in equal measure. When the judges reached her station, Amelia squeezed her shoulder once and stepped back. Emma launched into her presentation. She was nervous, stumbling over a few words, but her passion came through. She explained her hypothesis, walked through her methodology, showed her data with carefully drawn graphs. The judges asked questions. Emma answered them, glancing occasionally at Amelia for reassurance. When they finished, one judge smiled. Excellent work, Emma. Emma. Very thorough. Emma beamed. After the judges moved on, she grabbed Amelia's hand. Did I do okay? You were perfect. I messed up the part about pH levels. You recovered beautifully, and your data speaks for itself. Amelia crouched down to Emma's level. I'm proud of you. Emma threw her arms around her neck. Lucas watched, something warm and painful expanding in his chest. This was what Emma needed, what she'd been missing since Sarah died. Not a replacement mother. No one could replace Sarah, but someone who saw her potential and pushed her to reach it. They stayed for the rest of the fair, looking at other projects, eating terrible cafeteria cookies, making small talk with other parents. Lucas noticed the looks, the curious glances, the whispered conversations. Small towns thrived on gossip, and a billionaire hiding out on a failing farm was grade A material. He didn't care. Let them talk. Awards were announced at 11. Emma didn't win first place. That went to a 6th grader with a project on solar energy. But she got an honorable mention for best presentation in her grade level. She was ecstatic, clutching her ribbon like it was made of gold. We did it, she said, bouncing all the way to the truck. We actually did it. You did it, Amelia corrected. I just helped. Same thing. They celebrated with a lunch at the diner in town, the only restaurant within 20 miles. It was packed with post-science fair families, loud and chaotic. Lucas found a booth in the back, Emma sliding in beside Amelia, still chattering about her project. I want to do another experiment about whether music affects plant growth, or maybe about water quality. Finish this school year first, Lucas said. Then we'll talk about more experiments. But, Emma, she subsided, pouting slightly. Amelia caught Lucas's eye across the table, fighting a smile. They ordered burgers and fries. Mason made a mess with mashed carrots. Emma drew her next theoretical experiment on a napkin. For a moment, everything felt simple, normal, like they were just a family out for lunch, celebrating a kid's achievement. Then Richard Caldwell walked in. Lucas saw him first. That same expensive suit, that same practiced smile. He wasn't alone. 2 other people flanked him, both looking like they belonged in boardrooms instead of small-town diners. Amelia saw them a second later. Her whole body went rigid. Emma, take Mason to the bathroom, Lucas said quietly. But now. Something in his tone made her listen. She grabbed Mason and headed for the bathrooms, confused but obedient. Lucas stood as Caldwell approached their booth. Amelia, what a surprise. No, it's not. Amelia's voice was ice. What are you doing here, Richard? Following up on our earlier conversation, since you won't return my calls. Because I have nothing to say to you. That's unfortunate. The board would very much like to discuss your return, negotiate terms that work for everyone. I'm not negotiating. I won the injunction hearing. I'll win the next one too. Caldwell's smile thinned. You're being unreasonable. All we want is stability. Leadership that prioritizes the company over personal vendetta. Leadership that you can control, you mean? Amelia, leave, Lucas said. Now. Caldwell looked at him like he was noticing an insect. This is between Amelia and the board, Mr. Hayes. It doesn't concern you. She's at lunch with my family. That makes it my concern. Your family? Caldwell's expression shifted to something ugly. Is that what we're calling this? A billionaire playing house with a farmer and his kids? Lucas felt rage flash through him, hot and immediate. Get out. Or what? You'll make me? Caldwell laughed. Be realistic. You're a man with a failing farm and 2 kids he can barely support. Amelia is worth more than you'll see in 10 lifetimes. Whatever you think this is, it's temporary. She'll get bored and move on. Richard, enough. Amelia stood, her voice sharp enough to cut. You want to threaten me? Fine. But you leave him and his kids out of it. I'm not threatening anyone. I'm stating facts. You don't belong here, Amelia. You belong in New York, running your company, doing what you were meant to do. What I was meant to do is whatever I decide. Not what you or the board or anyone else thinks I should do. So you're choosing him? Really? Caldwell gestured dismissively at Lucas. This is what you're throwing your career away for? I'm not throwing anything away. I'm taking it back. On my terms. Amelia stepped closer to Caldwell, her voice dropping to something dangerous. And if you ever insult Lucas or his family again, I will destroy you. Not the board, not the company. You specifically. I'll dig up every corner you've cut, every deal you've made under the table, every person you've screwed over climbing the ladder, and I'll make sure everyone knows. Caldwell's composure cracked. You're bluffing. Try me. They stared at each other. The diner had gone quiet, everyone watching the confrontation. Finally, Caldwell stepped back. This isn't over. No, but it will be soon, and you're going to lose. Caldwell and his people left. Amelia sat back down, hands shaking. Lucas sat beside her instead of across, close enough to touch. You okay? He asked quietly. No, but I will be. She took a shaky breath. I'm sorry. I brought them here. Not your fault. It is, though. They're targeting you because of me. Let them target me. I can handle it. Emma emerged from the bathroom, Mason on her hip, looking worried. Is that man gone? He's gone, Lucas confirmed. He seemed mean. He is mean, but he's not our problem. They finished lunch in subdued quiet. The other diners eventually stopped staring, returning to their own meals and conversations. But Lucas could feel the shift. The way people looked at them now, curious and judging in equal measure. Outside in the truck, Amelia finally broke down. Not crying exactly, just shaking, her breath coming too fast. I can't do this, she whispered. I can't keep putting you through this. You're not putting me through anything. They are. Same thing. It's not. Lucas reached over, took her hand. Amelia, look at me. She did, eyes bright with unshed tears. I knew this would be hard, he said. I knew they'd come after me, after us, trying to force you back. And I'm still here. That's not going to change because Richard Caldwell shows up and acts like an asshole. He called you out. I don't care what he called me. I care that you stood up for us. For Emma and Mason and me. That matters more than anything he said. I meant it, about destroying him if he comes after you again. I know you did. That's what scares me. Amelia almost laughed. I'm a mess. So am I. We match. Emma leaned forward from the back seat. Are we going home now? Yeah, sweetheart. We're going home. Home. The word felt heavier now, weighted with meaning none of them could quite articulate. The next few days passed in tense calm. Amelia spent hours on the phone with Patricia, building their case for the next hearing. Lucas worked the farm, trying to ignore the way people stared when he went into town for supplies. Emma threw herself into planning her next experiment, oblivious to the adult drama swirling around her. But the peace couldn't last. Lucas knew it the moment his phone rang Wednesday afternoon, an unknown New York number on the screen. Mr. Hayes, this is Jennifer Walsh from the Department of Child Services. Ice flooded Lucas's veins. What can I do for you? We've received a complaint about the welfare of your children. I need to schedule a home visit to assess the situation. A complaint from who? I'm not at liberty to say, but the concerns were serious enough that we need to investigate. My kids are fine. They're healthy and happy and safe. I'm sure they are, Mr. Hayes. This is just standard procedure. How does Friday morning work for you? Lucas wanted to refuse. wanted to tell her to take her investigation and shove it, but refusing would only make things worse. Friday's fine. Excellent. I'll be there at 9. She hung up. Lucas stood in the barn, phone still pressed to his ear, rage and fear warring in his chest. They were coming after his kids now. Actually, officially coming after them. He found Amelia in his kitchen, working on her laptop. We have a problem. She looked up. What kind of problem? Child Services. Someone filed a complaint. They're doing a home visit Friday. All color drained from Amelia's face. This is them, the board. They're trying to prove you're unfit. They won't find anything. The house is clean. The kids are healthy. That doesn't matter. They'll find something to criticize, some reason to question your fitness, and they'll use me as evidence of instability. So what do I do? Amelia closed her laptop, thinking hard. We prepare. Make sure the house is spotless. Make sure you have documentation, medical records, school records, anything showing the kids are well cared for. And I stay out of sight during the visit. You're running again. I'm being strategic. If they see me here, they'll use it against you. Better I disappear for a few hours. Lucas wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her to stay, to stand beside him, to stop letting these people control their lives. But Emma and Mason's safety mattered more than his pride. Okay, he said. We do it your way. They spent Thursday cleaning like their lives depended on it, which, in a way, they did. Every surface was scrubbed, every toy organized, every corner examined for potential criticism. Emma helped without understanding why, just knowing something important was happening. Is someone coming to check on us? She asked, folding her clothes carefully. Yes, someone from the government. They just want to make sure you and Mason are okay. But we are okay. I know, sweetheart, but they need to see it for themselves. Is this because of those mean people who came to the diner? Lucas stopped folding laundry. What makes you think that? Because you and Amelia have been worried since then, and people only get worried when other people are being mean. 6 years old, and already too perceptive. Lucas pulled her into a hug. You're right. Some people are being mean, but we're handling it. Is Amelia going to leave again? Just for a few hours tomorrow. She'll be back. Promise? Promise. That night, after Emma was asleep, Lucas and Amelia sat on the porch going over strategy. She'd printed out checklists, guidelines, advice from lawyers about dealing with child services. They'll look at everything, she said. How you interact with the kids, how the kids interact with each other, whether the house is safe, whether you can provide for their needs. I can provide for their needs. I know. But you need to prove it. Show them bank statements showing you're current on bills. Show them the kids' medical records. Show them Emma's schoolwork. This is insane. This is what happens when people with money want to hurt you. They use the system as a weapon. Amelia looked tired, shadows deep under her eyes. I'm sorry, Lucas. This is my fault. Stop apologizing. You didn't make them file a false complaint. No, but I gave them ammunition. She stood, pacing. If I just went back to New York, ended this fight, they'd leave you alone. And you'd be miserable. Maybe, but your kids would be safe. My kids are safe now. One visit from Child Services doesn't change that. Lucas, no. He stood, facing her. You don't get to sacrifice yourself for us. That's not how this works. Then how does it work? We fight together. We prove them wrong together. We show them they can't break us. Amelia looked at him for a long moment. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point? She nodded slowly. Okay, we fight. Together. Together. Friday morning came too fast. Amelia left before dawn, taking her laptop to the public library in the next town over. Emma went to school like normal. Lucas stayed home with Mason, waiting for Jennifer Walsh, with a folder full of documentation and dread sitting heavy in his stomach. She arrived exactly at 9, a woman in her 40s with efficient hair and a practiced expression of neutrality. Lucas let her in, trying not to look as nervous as he felt. Mr. Hayes, thank you for meeting with me. Not like I had much choice. This is just a formality. I'm sure everything is fine. She pulled out a tablet. Can we start with a tour of the house? Lucas walked her through every room. She took notes, asked questions, examined everything with clinical detachment. The kitchen, the living room, Emma's bedroom, the nursery. She checked smoke detectors, inspected the bathroom, looked at the food in the fridge. The house is well maintained, she said, sounding almost surprised. I take care of my kids. I can see that. She looked at Mason, who was chewing on a toy in his playpen. Can you walk me through a typical day? Feeding schedule, nap times, that sort of thing? Lucas did, explaining their routine in careful detail. Walsh nodded, still taking notes. And Emma's in school full-time? Yes, first grade. She's doing well. I have her report cards if you want to see them. Please. He handed over the folder. Walsh flipped through. Medical records showing both kids were up to date on vaccinations. School records showing Emma's good grades and perfect attendance. Bank statements proving he was current on all bills thanks to Amelia's loan. This is all very thorough, Walsh said. Can I ask who helped you organize this? A friend. The same friend who's been living here? Lucas's stomach dropped. How did you... It's in the complaint. Allegations that you have an unstable person living in the home with your children. Walsh set down her tablet. I need to be clear, Mr. Hayes. I'm not here to judge your personal life, but I do need to ensure that anyone living with your children is not a danger to them. She's not living here. She's staying temporarily. For how long? A few weeks, maybe longer. And her name? Lucas hesitated. Giving Amelia's name would connect her to the complaint, would put her directly in the crosshairs. But lying would be worse. Amelia Sterling. Walsh's expression shifted slightly. Recognition. The Amelia Sterling? From Sterling Enterprises? Yes. I see. More notes. And what is the nature of your relationship with Ms. Sterling? We're friends. She needed a place to stay. I had a spare room. Nothing romantic? That's none of your business. Actually, Mr. Hayes, it is. If you're in a relationship with someone who has access to your children, I need to assess whether that person is a suitable influence. Lucas felt his jaw clench. Amelia has been nothing but good for my kids. Emma's grades have improved. She's happier. Mason's sleeping through the night. The house is cleaner. We're all eating better. If that's unsuitable influence, then I don't know what suitable looks like. Walsh was quiet for a moment. I believe you, but I still need to speak with Ms. Sterling. Is she available? Not right now. When will she be back? I don't know. Mr. Hayes, I can't complete my assessment without speaking to everyone living in the home. She's not living here. She's staying here. There's a difference. Not legally, there isn't. They stared at each other. Mason started fussing. Lucas picked him up automatically, bouncing him gently. Give me until Monday, Lucas said finally. I'll make sure Amelia's available then. Walsh considered this. Monday at 2. Here. If she's not present, I'll have to note it as non-compliance in my report. She'll be here? Good. Walsh packed up her things. For what it's worth, Mr. Hayes, everything looks fine. The house is clean, the children are clearly well cared for, and you seem like a competent parent. But I have to follow procedure. I understand. I'll see you Monday. She left. Lucas stood in the living room, Mason on his hip, trying to process what just happened. They'd bought 3 days. 3 days to figure out how to handle this without it blowing up in their faces. Amelia came back an hour later. Lucas explained the situation, the questions, the assessment, the Monday deadline. They know you're here, he finished. They know your name, and they want to interview you. Amelia sat heavily at the kitchen table. Of course they do. Can you do it? Talk to her without making things worse. I don't know. What am I supposed to say? Yes, I'm a billionaire hiding from my own company. Yes, I'm technically homeless because I ran away from my life. Yes, I've been staying with a man I barely knew 3 months ago. She laughed bitterly. That'll sound great. Then we tell the truth. You needed help. I needed help. We helped each other. And the part where she gestured vaguely between them. Whatever this is. We tell her that too, that we care about each other, that you care about my kids, that this isn't some unstable situation. It's just people trying to figure out how to live. Lucas, they'll use it against us. They'll say I'm a bad influence, that I'm using you, that I'm putting your kids at risk by bringing my corporate drama into your home. Let them say it. We know it's not true. But does the truth matter if they have the power to take Emma and Mason away? The question hung in the air between them, heavy and terrible. Lucas looked at Mason, sleeping peacefully in his arms, and felt fear twist in his gut. It has to matter, he said, because if it doesn't, then we've already lost. The weekend before Monday's interview stretched impossibly long. Lucas found himself watching Amelia with Emma and Mason, cataloging moments like he was trying to memorize them before they disappeared. The way Amelia helped Emma practice multiplication tables at the kitchen table. The way she sang to Mason when he wouldn't settle. The way she'd started leaving her expensive clothes in the closet in favor of jeans and sweaters that actually belonged on a farm. She fit here. That was the problem. She fit so well that Lucas couldn't imagine the house without her anymore, and that terrified him more than any court hearing or child services investigation. Saturday afternoon, Emma was playing in the yard with Mason when Amelia's phone rang. She looked at the screen, her expression going tight. "It's Patricia," she said. "I should take this." She walked to the barn for privacy. Lucas watched from the porch, uneasy crawling up his spine. 10 minutes later, she emerged looking shaken. "What happened?" he asked. "The board filed a motion to freeze my personal accounts. Not company assets, my personal money. They're claiming I've been liquidating assets irresponsibly, that I'm not competent to manage my own finances." She laughed, high and brittle. "They're trying to put me under a conservatorship, like I'm some incompetent child who can't be trusted with her own money." "Can they do that?" "They're trying. Patricia says we can fight it, but it'll take time, weeks, maybe months." She pressed her palms to her eyes. "In the meantime, I can't access most of my money. Can't transfer funds. Can't pay lawyers or investigators or anyone who might actually help me fight back." Lucas felt something cold settle in his stomach. "How much do you have access to?" "Enough to survive for a while, not enough to wage a legal war against a board with unlimited resources. So they're choking you out." Exactly. Forcing me to either give up or come back on their terms." She looked at him, exhausted and furious. "I should have seen this coming, should have moved money around before they could freeze it, but I was too focused on winning the injunction." "Stop," Lucas said. "You did what you thought was right. They're the ones playing dirty. Doesn't matter if I can't fight back." Emma ran up to the porch, Mason toddling behind her. "Amelia, come see the bug I found. It's huge." Amelia pasted on a smile. "Lead the way, sweetheart." She followed Emma into the yard, leaving Lucas on the porch with dread building in his chest. They were running out of time and options, and Monday was coming whether they were ready or not. That night, after the kids were asleep, Lucas found Amelia in the guest room packing. "What are you doing?" he asked from the doorway. "Getting ready. If Monday goes badly, I might need to leave fast." "You're not leaving." "Lucas, I'm serious. You're not running again. We face this together, remember?" Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, a shirt clutched in her hands. "What if facing it together means they take Emma and Mason? What if my being here is the reason Child Services decides you're unfit?" "Then we appeal. We fight. We don't give up." "You say that like it's simple." "It's not simple. It's terrifying. But running won't fix anything." Lucas crossed the room, sat beside her. "You told me once that you came here looking for something real, something that wasn't performance or strategy. Did you find it?" "You know I did." "Then stay. Fight for it. Fight for us." "What if I lose?" "Then we lose together, but at least we tried." Amelia looked at him, eyes bright with unshed tears. "I don't know how to do this. How to be vulnerable. How to let people see me fail. Nobody knows how. You just do it and hope it doesn't kill you." She laughed wetly. "That's a terrible pep talk. I'm a farmer, not a motivational speaker. You're an idiot." "Probably. But I'm your idiot." Amelia kissed him then, sudden and desperate and real. Lucas kissed her back, tasting salt and fear and something that felt like hope. When they pulled apart, she was crying for real. "I'm so scared," she whispered. "Me too. What if this doesn't work?" "Then we figure out plan B and plan C, and however many plans it takes." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "Okay, I'll stay. I'll fight." "Good. But if they try to take Emma and Mason because of me, they won't." "But if they do—" "Amelia," he took her face in his hands, "stop borrowing trouble. We don't know what's going to happen Monday, so let's just get through the weekend first." She nodded again, leaning into his touch. They stayed like that for a while, just breathing together, trying to believe their own reassurances. Sunday was quiet in the way that days before battle always are. They went through the motions: breakfast, chores, playing with the kids. Emma sensed the tension and got clingy, following Lucas or Amelia everywhere. Mason was fussy, refusing to nap, crying for no apparent reason. By evening, everyone was wound tight. Lucas made dinner while Amelia gave Mason a bath. Emma set the table with obsessive precision, arranging each fork and knife perfectly. "Daddy?" she said as Lucas was draining pasta. "Yeah, sweetheart? Is tomorrow going to be bad?" Lucas wanted to lie, wanted to tell her everything would be fine, that there was nothing to worry about. But Emma was too smart for comfortable lies. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but whatever happens, we're going to be okay. All of us. Promise?" "Promise." They ate dinner in subdued quiet. Afterward, Emma asked if Amelia would read her a bedtime story. They went upstairs together while Lucas cleaned up and put Mason down. By the time he finished, Amelia was coming out of Emma's room, looking wrung out. "She made me promise I wouldn't leave," Amelia said. "Like, really promise. She said promises to kids are different than promises to grown-ups, and I have to mean it." "Do you mean it?" "Yes. Even if it's stupid. Even if I should leave to protect them. I can't." She leaned against the wall. "When did I get so attached to your kids?" "Probably around the time they got attached to you." "This is a disaster. Best disaster I've ever had." Amelia almost smiled. "You really are an idiot." "Yeah, but I'm consistently an idiot. That counts for something." They went to bed early, both knowing sleep would be impossible. Lucas lay awake staring at the ceiling, running through every possible Monday scenario. Most of them ended badly. A few ended catastrophically. None of them felt like victory. Around midnight, his door opened quietly. Amelia stood there in pajamas, looking small and scared. "Can I—" She stopped. "I don't want to be alone." "Yeah, come here." She climbed into bed beside him, and Lucas wrapped his arms around her. They didn't talk, just held each other while the house settled around them, and Monday crept closer with every passing minute. Morning came too soon. Lucas woke to find Amelia already up, dressed in clothes that split the difference between her corporate armor and her farm comfort. Nice, but not intimidating. She was in the kitchen making coffee with shaking hands when he came downstairs. "You okay?" he asked. "No, but I'll fake it until this is over." Emma appeared, still in pajamas. "Is today the day?" "Yeah, sweetheart, but you're going to school like normal. This is just grown-up stuff." "I want to stay." "I know, but you can't." Lucas crouched down to her level. "This is boring meeting stuff. You'd hate it. Better to be at school doing actual interesting things." "But, Emma, trust me, okay?" She nodded reluctantly. Lucas got her ready for school, put her on the bus with extra hugs, and came back to find Amelia pacing the kitchen with Mason on her hip. "What if I make it worse?" she said without preamble. "What if Walsh takes one look at me and decides I'm proof you're unfit? Then we deal with it." "You keep saying that like it's a plan." "It's the only plan we have." Jennifer Walsh arrived at exactly 2 o'clock. Lucas let her in, Amelia standing in the living room with Mason, looking more nervous than he'd ever seen her. "Ms. Sterling," Walsh said, professional and neutral. "Thank you for making yourself available." "Of course." "Why don't we all sit down?" They sat, Lucas and Amelia on the couch, Walsh in the armchair, Mason playing on the floor between them. Walsh pulled out her tablet and launched into questions. How long had Amelia been staying here? What was the nature of her relationship with Lucas? How much time did she spend with the children? What were her future plans? Amelia answered carefully, telling the truth without volunteering extra ammunition. Yes, she was staying temporarily. Yes, she and Lucas were close. She hesitated over the word, then owned it. Yes, she spent significant time with Emma and Mason. No, she didn't have concrete long-term plans yet. Credit. "Can I ask about your current employment situation?" Walsh asked. "I'm the founder and former CEO of Sterling Enterprises, currently involved in legal proceedings to regain control of my company." "And those proceedings are why you're here, hiding from your board?" Amelia's jaw tightened. "I'm not hiding. I'm taking space to build my case away from people trying to control me." "And Mr. Hayes is helping you with that?" Lucas has given me a place to stay. That's all. That's not all, though, is it? Walsh looked between them. You're in a relationship, living together, co-parenting his children. I'm not co-parenting, Amelia said. I help when asked. That's different. Is it? From what I understand, you're involved in everything from homework to bedtime routines. You cook, clean, participate in school activities. That sounds like co-parenting to me. So what if it is? Lucas interjected. What's wrong with my kids having another adult who cares about them? Nothing. Unless that adult is using them, or you, as a refuge from their own problems. I'm not using anyone, Amelia said, voice sharp. I care about Lucas and his kids, genuinely care. Not because they're useful or convenient, but because they're good people who deserve better than what they've been getting. And what have they been getting, in your opinion? A father who works himself to death trying to provide. Kids who've lost too much already. A family barely holding together because society decided single dads don't deserve support. Amelia's composure was cracking now, real emotion bleeding through. Lucas is a good father, an incredible father, and he's been doing it alone because everyone else either died or disappeared or gave up. So yeah, I help, because someone should have been helping all along. Walsh was quiet for a moment, taking notes. That's quite an assessment. It's the truth. And when you leave, if your legal situation resolves, what happens to these children you care so much about? I'm not leaving. Ms. Sterling, I'm not leaving, Amelia repeated, firmer. I came here to hide, you're right. I ran away from a situation I couldn't control. But I'm not running anymore. I'm staying. I'm fighting. And part of what I'm fighting for is the right to be here. With Lucas, with Emma, and Mason, because this is my home now. Lucas stared at her. She'd never said it that directly before, never claimed them out loud like that. Walsh looked between them again. Mr. Hayes, were you aware Ms. Sterling felt this strongly? Yeah, we've talked about it. And you're comfortable with this arrangement? More than comfortable. I want her here. Even knowing it brings complications, corporate enemies, legal battles, people who might use your children to hurt her? Even knowing all that, Lucas said, because the alternative is being alone again. And I'm done being alone. Walsh set down her tablet. I'm going to be honest with you both. This is not a typical situation. Most of my cases involve neglect or abuse, or parents who genuinely can't provide for their kids. This is none of those things. What this is messy, complicated, unconventional. But not dangerous, Lucas said. No, not dangerous. Walsh looked at Amelia. But I need to know, and I need this on record. Are you planning to involve these children in your corporate battles? Use them for leverage or publicity or anything else? Never, Amelia said immediately. They're off limits completely. Anyone who tries to hurt them to get to me will regret it. That sounds like a threat. It's a promise. I protect what's mine. Walsh studied them for a long moment. Then she picked up her tablet and typed something Lucas couldn't see. My assessment is that the children are safe, well cared for, and thriving under Mr. Hayes's care, she said finally. Ms. Sterling's presence appears to be beneficial rather than harmful. I'll be recommending the case be closed with no further action. Lucas felt air rush back into his lungs. Seriously? Seriously. Though I would advise you both to be cautious. Whoever filed this complaint isn't going to be happy with this outcome. They may try again. Let them try, Amelia said. We'll be ready. Walsh stood, packing up her things. For what it's worth, I think you're both brave. Stupid, maybe, but brave. We'll take it, Lucas said. After Walsh left, Lucas and Amelia sat on the couch in stunned silence. Mason crawled over, pulling himself up on Lucas's knee. Did that actually just happen? Amelia asked. I think so. We won. First round, anyway. Amelia laughed, slightly manic. We actually won. They tried to use child services against us and we won. Because you told the truth, because you claimed us. She looked at him. I meant it. About staying, about this being home. I know, but I need to go back to New York. Not permanently, just long enough to end this fight properly. Take back my company or burn it down trying. She took his hand. Can you wait for me? Can you trust that I'll come back? Yes. Just like that. Just like that. Lucas squeezed her hand. Go fight your battle. Win or lose. Then come home. What if losing means I have nothing to come back with? No money, no company, no... You'd have you. That's enough. Amelia kissed him then, soft and sure. Mason made a disgusted noise. They pulled apart laughing. When do you leave? Lucas asked. Tomorrow. Patricia got us a court date for next week. Emergency hearing on the conservatorship motion. If we win that, we can start dismantling everything else they've built. And if you lose, then I start over, build something new, figure out who I am without Sterling Enterprises. She looked around the living room, at the toys scattered on the floor, the crayon drawings on the walls, the lived-in mess of a real home. Either way, I know where I belong now. That night, after Emma was asleep and Mason was down, Lucas and Amelia sat on the porch one last time. The stars were out, sharp and clear in the country darkness. I'm scared, Amelia admitted, of going back, of facing them, of losing. I know. But I'm more scared of not trying, of letting them win because I was too afraid to fight. So fight. I'll be here when you get back. Promise? Promise. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Amelia spoke again, quieter. I need to tell you something. Before I go. Before this gets any more complicated. Okay? I think I love you. She said it fast, like ripping off a bandage. I know that's insane. I know we've only known each other a few months, and most of that time I was a disaster, and you were barely holding it together. But I think I love you, you and Emma and Mason, this whole messy, beautiful situation. Lucas felt something expand in his chest, warm and terrifying and right. I think I love you too. That's a terrible idea. Probably the worst idea I've ever had. We're both disasters. Yeah, but we're disasters together. That's got to count for something. Amelia laughed, wiping her eyes. When did we become people who say things like that? When we stopped pretending we were fine on our own. She leaned against him, and Lucas wrapped his arm around her shoulders. They stayed like that until the cold drove them inside, holding on to each other like they were the only solid things in a world that kept trying to shake them loose. Amelia left Tuesday morning. Lucas drove her to the airport, Emma and Mason both crying in the back seat. At the departure curb, Amelia hugged them all fiercely. I'll be back in a week, she promised Emma. 2 at most. You better be. We're starting the new experiment and I need your help. I'll be here. She kissed Lucas quickly, then grabbed her bag and disappeared into the terminal before anyone could see her crying. Lucas drove home with 2 heartbroken kids and a house that already felt too empty. The week crawled by. Amelia called every night, updating them on the legal proceedings. The conservatorship hearing went well. The judge threw it out as frivolous, sanctioned the board for wasting court time. The countersuit for illegal removal was moving forward. Patricia had found 3 board members willing to testify against Caldwell. We're winning, Amelia said Thursday night, sounding exhausted and exhilarated. Actually winning. They're scrambling, making mistakes, turning on each other. That's incredible. Patricia thinks we can wrap this up next week. Full reinstatement, damages, the works. She paused. And then I'm coming home. For good? I'll have to go back periodically. Board meetings, major decisions. But my life isn't there anymore. It's with you. Lucas felt something settle in his chest. We'll make it work. Yeah? Yeah. Emma grabbed the phone. Amelia, I got an A on my math test. Mrs. Patterson said it was the best score in the class. That's amazing, sweetheart. I knew you could do it. And Mason said Mia today. He was looking at your picture and he said Mia. Lucas heard Amelia's breath catch. He did? Yeah, Daddy says it counts as your name. It absolutely counts. They talked for another 20 minutes before Emma finally surrendered the phone. Lucas took it into the bedroom, suddenly exhausted. She really misses you, he said. I miss her too. Miss all of you. Amelia sighed. This is harder than I thought it would be. Being back here, wearing the suits and playing the games and pretending I care about quarterly projections. Do you regret it? Fighting for the company? No. I earned it. I built it. They don't get to take it just because I chose to have a life outside of it. She was quiet for a moment. But I regret every minute I'm not there with you. Then come home. When you're done fighting, come home. I will. I promise. The second week was worse than the first. Emma got in a fight at school, defending Amelia to a kid who said billionaires were all evil. Lucas had to sit through a meeting with the principal, explaining that yes, the woman they'd heard about was staying with them, and no, she wasn't a bad influence, and could everyone please stop treating his family like a scandal? Mason got sick. Just a cold, but it meant sleepless nights and stress Lucas didn't have bandwidth for. The farm demanded attention he couldn't spare. Everything felt like it was barely holding together without Amelia there to help carry the weight. But Thursday afternoon, 13 days after she'd left, Lucas got a text. Court just ruled, full reinstatement, damages awarded, Caldwell's being removed from the board. I won. Lucas called immediately. Are you serious? Completely serious. It's over. They tried to destroy me and they lost. She sounded drunk on victory and relief. I'm booking a flight. I'll be home tomorrow. For how long? As long as you'll have me. I'm restructuring everything, hiring new leadership, setting up remote work capabilities. I'll have to go back once a month, maybe twice. But my home is there now, with you. Amelia, unless you've changed your mind, unless this was just, I haven't changed my mind. Come home. I'll see you tomorrow. She hung up. Lucas stood in the kitchen, phone in hand, trying to process the fact that it was actually over. They'd won. She was coming back. They got to keep her. Emma walked in. Who was that? Amelia. She's coming home tomorrow. Emma's face lit up. Really? For real? For real. She screamed and ran upstairs, probably to clean her room, or make another welcome home banner, or do whatever 6-year-olds did when they were excited. Lucas heard her singing to Mason, telling him Mia was coming home. The next evening, Lucas stood at the airport arrivals with both kids, watching the doors obsessively. Mason was on his hip, Emma bouncing beside him, barely contained. Then Amelia walked through the doors, looking tired and beautiful and completely herself. Emma ran to her immediately, nearly tackling her. Amelia caught her, laughing and crying at the same time. You came back, Emma said. You really came back. I promised, didn't I? Lucas walked over with Mason, who reached out immediately. Mia! Amelia took him, holding both kids like they were the most precious things in the world. When she finally looked up at Lucas, her eyes were wet. I'm home, she said. Yeah, you are. They went home together, all 4 of them, crammed in the truck, Emma chattering about everything Amelia had missed. At the farm, Emma dragged her inside to show her the new science project they'd started. Mason refused to let her put him down. The house felt full again, noisy and chaotic and right. That night, after the kids were finally asleep, Lucas found Amelia on the porch. She'd changed into farm clothes, her hair loose, looking like she'd never left. You okay? He asked, sitting beside her. Better than okay. I'm exactly where I want to be. She leaned against him. I restructured the company, gave up day-to-day operations to people I trust. I'm still CEO, still in control, but I don't have to be there every day. I can live my life and run my company. I can have both. And if you can't, then I choose this. Every time. Because winning my company back was important, but it's not what matters most anymore. She took his hand. You are. Emma and Mason are. This life we're building is. Lucas kissed her, slow and sure, tasting home and future and promises he actually believed in. When they pulled apart, Amelia was smiling. So what now? She asked. Now we live. We figure it out as we go. We make mistakes and fix them and keep trying. That sounds terrifying. It is, but we'll do it together. Together, Amelia agreed. 6 months later, Emma won first place at the regional science fair with a project on sustainable farming techniques. Amelia was there, cheering louder than anyone. Mason took his first steps in the barn while Lucas was fixing a fence, and Amelia was teaching Emma about soil composition. The farm started turning a profit for the first time in years, partially because Lucas finally accepted Amelia's help with the business side, and partially because they'd figured out how to work as a team. Amelia went back to New York once a month, sometimes twice. She'd come home tired but satisfied, full of stories about board meetings and corporate restructuring and the company she'd taken back from people who thought they owned her. And every time she came home. To Lucas, to Emma and Mason, to a life that looked nothing like what she'd planned, but everything like what she needed. They weren't perfect. They fought sometimes. About parenting decisions, about money, about how much time Amelia should spend in New York versus on the farm. They struggled with blending their lives, with figuring out how to be partners when they'd both been alone for so long. But they showed up. They chose each other. They built something real out of desperation and fear and stubborn refusal to give up. And that, Lucas learned, was what love actually looked like. Not perfect, not smooth, just two broken people deciding they were better together than apart, and working every day to prove it true. Emma asked once, months later, if Amelia was going to be her mom now. Amelia had looked at Lucas, uncertain, and he'd nodded. "I can't replace your mom," Amelia told Emma carefully. "Nobody can. But I can be someone who loves you and takes care of you and shows up for you, if that's okay." "That's definitely okay," Emma had said. "Can I call you Mom?" "If you want to." "What about Mia Mom? So it's different but still right?" Amelia had cried. "Mia Mom is perfect." Now Lucas stood on the porch, watching Emma and Mason play in the yard with Amelia supervising, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not happiness, exactly. More like contentment, like peace, like home. Amelia joined him, sliding under his arm naturally. "What are you thinking about?" "That I almost turned you away that first night. That I almost didn't let you stay. I would have slept in my car and frozen to death." Very dramatic. Probably. But then where would we be? Apart. Miserable. Exactly where we were before. She looked up at him. "Thank you for opening the door. Thank you for knocking." They stood together, watching their kids play, building a life neither of them had planned, but both of them fought for. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was theirs, and that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.